You
Yeah.
know what it's like? It doesn't matter if it's porn or hentai or anything. You open
Uh-huh.
20 tabs, you find the one thing, yeah, have your fun, and then you close all 20 tabs, and that's it.
Saintone, thank you so
Hmm.
much for joining me here today on the very latest episode of my podcast series. I really appreciate your time. You and I are literally living in the same country, so we're on the same time zone, and it's getting pretty late. And you stream very early. And let me tell you one more time, I really appreciate you taking the time to just sit down and talk with me and the viewers for the sake of Twitch and
Hmm.
YouTube. You have no idea how much I appreciate that. Thank you so much, brother.
No, thank you for having me on. I don't think we don't get many opportunities to actually get to sit and talk, so it's good to take some time. I can barely find time nowadays, so anytime that I can get where I can actually talk
Yeah,
with colleagues is
yeah,
fantastic.
absolutely. And if you guys are just watching this for the first time, also to Saint, I don't know how familiar he is with the series, but we're just this is not a scripted thing. There's no structure to this. It's just free talk for however long we go. Just talking about a wide variety of stuff. We'll probably talk about some Lost Ark stuff, but a little bit more on the personal side. I just want to get to talk to you as a person and maybe even hear your story and anything else that you might
Hmm.
want to share that's outside of Lost Ark. Again, I'm sure we'll touch on a little bit on Lost Ark, but usually, I'm doing these podcasts with Lost Ark creators or creators relative that they're or creators that are playing Lost Ark, and honestly, the Lost Ark segment of the podcast are very, very short, and the IRL
Hmm.
stuff is the vast majority of it. So, yeah, like you said, you and I haven't actually had the opportunity to really talk to each other very much, and I don't actually know you, Saint. I know you and you know me, but we don't really know each other that well. I just know that you live in
Hmm.
Korea. So first, just out the gate, I'm going to start this podcast off with one very pressing question that every single player that has played Lost Ark has asked themselves, and that is, how do you pronounce your name? Is it Saint One or is it Saint Tone? And why?
Is this like a backlash after how people were pronouncing my name during the G4 tournament or something like
I
that?
don't.
Like some
Was
kickback?
there backlash? Was there something there?
No. It's not that it was backlash. It's just like every time someone brought up my name, I would see in the chat and they'd be like, "Oh, they're pronouncing it this way, but it's not that way." And I'm
Oh,
just sitting
really?
there like, Yeah, I feel like it was like a whole like debacle on how to pronounce my name.
Yeah. Can you Can you debunk it? Like, can you tell us how is it actually? How do not how it? How do you pronounce it? Or yeah. How do you pronounce it?
I pronounce it.
Okay, gotcha. Well, there you go. There
Hmm.
you go. I hope you guys heard that. Man, I like listen, I know you're tired, but like I have so many questions. Like just first of all, how long have you been living in Korea?
For a few years, uh I didn't really have
Mm-hmm.
intention of moving here in the first place.
Yeah.
The reason that I moved here was at the time I was kind of in a rut. I was streaming trying to make a living streaming, but it
Oh.
wasn't working out. And I kind of had my parents kind of hounding me, like, what are you doing with your life kind of
Mm-hmm.
thing. And then there was a Hail Mary opportunity. There was a job listing, and I kind of took the
Mm.
chance to work in video games. Um, and then I started with a company called Nexon, which a lot of people know and hate.
Sure.
And then I later moved to a different indie company called ODS,
Okay.
and I worked with them up until pretty recently. Then when Lost Ark was announced, I tried full-time streaming, and that's where I am now.
Okay.
And now I'm just trying to figure out where I see myself living,
Oh.
even short term.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Are you thinking about leaving Korea and going back to like the States or something?
I think so. I mean, my mom's advice is find somewhere cheap. Uh, yeah, cheap and barely any taxes and mostly cheap.
Okay.
If I'm gonna be doing like this, what is essentially remote work,
Uh-huh. True.
find somewhere where you don't have to spend a whole lot. I don't really go out anyways.
Right, right. I mean, Southeast Asia, would you consider Southeast Asia? Like I've lived in Thailand for a year and Thailand is very cheap. Like
I think that's what the lazy peon does.
yes, he does.
Yeah.
Yeah. Would you consider
Yeah,
something like that?
I mean, as long as it has like good internet, good food, and probably air conditioning. Now I finally have air conditioning. Now I don't think I can ever go back from that.
Wait, what?
That's all I need. I don't go outside. I don't need fancy um like tourist destinations nearby or
Uh-huh.
anything like that.
Wait, you finally have air conditioning? What do you mean? Like, would you just get? Did you just recently get air conditioning, like in Korea or something? Or
Yeah, because before we had a central heating thing, but I didn't have control over
oh
it.
yeah, I hate that. I hate that. Yeah, that's
Yeah, so now I have my own actual like AC unit where I have like a little remote for it,
Mm-hmm.
and that's it's a game changer.
Okay. How long have you been in Korea for? Like the exact like has it been a couple of years since you've been here?
Yeah, it's been I think 3 years
Three
now.
years. Wow. So how have you enjoyed living here? How's the whole experience been?
It was a lot better when I was actually like working with people still. Nowadays, I feel like since I don't really go out, I, where I live is pretty much irrelevant.
That's true. Yeah. I mean, you're a
Yeah,
big homebody, yeah?
I am. I almost never go out anymore. I mean, it doesn't help that I spend like 12 hours a day streaming and like 8 hours a day sleeping.
Yeah. I get that. I definitely get that. Like okay, so Korea as a young I mean, I take it you're not married, right? You're single.
You don't need to rub it in.
Marital status. Hey, there's nothing wrong with it. I'm single too, man. I'm single too. No, but like what I'm saying, as a young single male adult, Korea is a fantastic place to be in, especially in Seoul. There's so much to do. I mean, I would love to go out and have drinks with you, but I know you're afraid that I'll, take you know, take your kidney or something. But
Hmm.
has that not has there been no temptation there to like for you to go out and maybe mingle with some of these really cute Korean? I went as far as okay, Saint. Listen, I mean, I'm like I go out. I went out quite a bit like before I got into content creating, but like there was a period of time where I was actually curious about hanging out with even gamers. I joined a BDOKR guild. I joined a BDOKR guild, and Korea is so small, as you know. Most people live in Seoul if you get to know them, right? I mean, not everyone, but there's a lot of people that live in Seoul. And I was like, all right, I'm gonna join this BDO guild, and I'm gonna hang out with them in person, and have some drinks and party with them. And I did, and it was awesome. It was really really fun. It was a really great experience. Have you ever thought about like? Has that never had the temptation of going out in Korea and Seoul especially? Has that never really been a thing for you?
Again, like I went out definitely a lot more when I was still working.
Hmm.
And as far as like as gamers go, I think I've only met like two guildies of
Okay.
mine from Kanon. And outside of that, no, not really. As far as like dating goes, I'm not keen on the idea of dating because I feel like
Okay.
I don't have time to do that.
Uh huh. Uh huh.
If I'm streaming 12 hours a day and I'm sleeping 8 hours a day, that leaves me 4 hours a day, and usually 1 or 2 hours of that goes towards like settling business related stuff. And
Sure.
then the remaining 2 hours is just whatever free time that I actually have remaining.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Okay.
But I've made it. I've been streaming like 12 hours a day since like January, and I decided to stick to that because um it's hard for me to see everyone. I don't really do YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
I barely touch YouTube at all.
Yeah.
So what I tried to do is I tried to stream through both NA and EU time zones
Okay.
as much as I can, and that's what led to the 12-hour stream. And I do the 12-hour stream every single day for that reason.
Mm. Okay. Has that taken a toll on your body? Like, honestly, your health? Because you stream every day,
Um,
right? Like, I don't think you take days off anymore, right?
yeah, no days
Yeah.
off, 12 hours every day. And I don't think it's that bad. I mean, there's definitely a clear difference from the beginning of the stream to the end of the stream as far as like
Sure.
my energy levels go, but I sleep a lot. I gotta say, I think I sleep a lot more than the average person, so it's not like I'm not rested for it, you
Mm-hmm.
know?
There's no burnout for you though. I mean, one of the best things about streaming, and probably the main reason, or one of the main reasons why streamers want to continue to be streamers, is because like you probably do enjoy and love doing what you're doing, right? Like at the end of the day, you're a gamer, like you're playing games and that's what you want to do. But, if you do something excessively like 12 hours every day, um, and interacting with chat is another thing. As fun as it is, it's if you do that at, again, 12 hours every day, it could kind of take a toll, or at the very least, maybe a potential burnout phase could happen. Has that not really been the case for you, or are you straight giga chatting? Like burnout doesn't actually affect a Saint.
It was challenging at first because I mean, you know this. As a streamer, especially for like a game where a lot of people look to you for information, you
Mm-hmm.
get people that come and go regularly every minute. And so even if you answer a question, there's like a good chance that it just gets asked again two
Mm-hmm.
minutes later. And you can't get mad at the person, the next person who answers it,
Sure.
because they're just like opening up Twitch like a minute ago, and they're like, oh, I wonder if I could ask the streamer this question. They
Mm-hmm.
don't think, oh, what if they just answered this like 3 minutes ago? You can't get
Mm-hmm.
mad at someone for that, something like that.
Sure.
That's just silly. Um, the repetitiveness was definitely at its apex during the launch of the game.
Mm-hmm.
And it's gone down since then. But of course, nowadays we get topical things like the latest update. A lot of people coming in and asking about PTR related changes, balance stuff. What are your thoughts on this? What are your thoughts on that? And the way that I ended up handling it is I just started selectively reading answers. Um, and I just try to filter out the ones that I feel like if I answer them, then it's just gonna, like, a nonsense question gets a nonsense answer, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I just filter those out. So I mean, outside of that, which is the closest thing that I think would bog me down while streaming, no, I mean, not really. It's just have the stream on while I'm playing the game, and if I'm playing the game, there's no harm in me turning the stream on.
Right, right. Were you playing like 12 hours a day? I mean, obviously you're working before, so I guess I just can't kind of answer my own question, but like, were you capable of, are you one of those guys that could sit down and play a game every day for 12 hours, 10, 12
Oh yeah,
hours,
yeah,
if you could? Yeah.
certainly. Yep.
A true MMOer at heart, essentially.
Yep. The only thing that stops me from playing more is I know that I have to go live at a certain time, so I try to get sleep before that.
Oh, true, true. 12 hours is a long time, and not taking breaks is a long time. Do you do that because you just feel like, because like you just enjoy doing it and you have no issues with doing it compared to other streamers that might be like, oh man, I can't, like, I need to take breaks, or I can only stream like 5 hours or whatever that may be. Like, I'm not trying to compare you to other streamers, but I'm just kind of wondering what Saint's process, like, hey, I have no problems playing a game every day. I have no issues with just turning on the stream while I do it, and that's why I stream every day, 12 hours a day. It's really not a thing for me. Like, is it one of those types of things, or is it more maybe like, hey, I just started streaming full time and I'm on that grind and I'm gonna continue building this up, or what's the thought process there for Saint, for yourself?
I'm just avoiding anything that has to do with video editing.
Okay.
Video editing is awful. The last video that I actually edited was the Sorcerer's Guide one.
Great video,
And
by the way.
it took me 30 hours to make that, and I know for a fact that if it was someone like you or Stoops doing the same exact video, you'd have it done in like 10 hours or less.
Maybe
And it's
Stoops.
just like I hate video editing so much. And I recently got two editors, Yonut and Capera, and they've done some edits for me. Yonut's working on some lore related stuff. I did a lore segment. I uploaded the first part of that, just talking about the game's story, since I was like, okay, no one's really doing this. It might be a fun video topic.
Yeah.
And I just like streaming. I feel like it's effortless. I actually sat down and I talked to Saiwo, who I'm sure everyone knows. Because Saiwo at the time was just like wondering some stuff about live streaming, because he mostly does YouTube. And he told me that streaming was more difficult than doing video editing. And I sat there bewildered, because I thought to myself, that is like the exact opposite of how I feel.
Right.
With streaming, you press one button, you just play the game, you do your thing, you talk to people, effortless. But for him, the whole like talking bit is the hard part. The video editing part is the easy part. For me, I don't really know how to video edit. All I have is a pirated copy of Sony Vegas from 2013, which I barely know how to use. And I just finagle everything, and so my videos, they kind of come out kind of shoddy, and so I just like streaming. It's just so much easier for me. So yeah.
You
guys might stream less, but you had to spend so much time video editing.
Yeah, you know what? Like, I'm glad this topic came up, because I can't talk on behalf of the other creators, but like, my thought process is, for me, my platform is, like, discovery is big, and trying to pull from other platforms, I think, is pretty important to the growth of Twitch. So like, for me, it's like, especially when I came to Lost Ark, because I was obviously a lot later to the Lost Ark scene as a content creator compared to like, guys like you and Zeals and those guys. But for me, it was like, okay, well, what can I do to get myself discovered? Because like, I'm kind of in the same boat with you. I enjoy streaming, and I could stream every day. I could. Video editing sucks. I hate video editing too, man. I fucking hate it. And it takes me so long to make videos too. Like, I really decide. I will say it feels very rewarding after finishing a video. Like, I'm sure when you finished your Sork video, you're probably like, what, finally? Like, probably felt like you accomplished something, right? Like, I do like that when it comes to YouTube. But like, yeah, I'm in the same boat, man. I don't think, I'm not a big fan of video editing, and I do think it's way more difficult to do YouTube than streaming when it comes to like the amount of effort I get. Not effort, but I guess effort, but not even time, but more, I guess, effort that goes into it. But for me, it's just pulling people, right? Pulling, like, obviously, generating revenue from YouTube, plus, marketing from YouTube, essentially, because it's like free marketing at the end of the day. And then hopefully that builds my Twitch up, and that's pretty much been my recipe for building my Twitch platform. You, however, like you said, you aren't known for your YouTube channel. Great YouTube channel, by the way, and I love the growth. I think you're up to like, aren't you up to like 30 plus K or something like that, right? I think. Yeah. That's really fast, considering like right before the launch you were like a brand new channel, I think, right? Wasn't it only like a couple of K or something like that?
Yeah, I didn't really do anything with my YouTube. I didn't really want to do anything with my YouTube, but I put out a few Lost Ark videos and they did really well. And then they got signal boosted as well by a lot of other content creators. And yeah, it grew a lot of subscribers in that time, which is interesting because I don't really see myself leveraging it that much,
Yeah.
and maybe I should, but at the same time, it's a lot of effort of something that I don't want to do. And I
Yeah.
think what keeps me from burning out is doing the things that I want to do and avoiding the things that would make my day-to-day tedious.
Right. I get that. Like, I feel like you're kind of the exception because the general advice that you get from streamers these days is like, hey, as a new streamer, go to YouTube, upload videos, market yourself on YouTube, and that will pull an audience to Twitch. That certainly was not the case for you. Like your Twitch has really blown up. And I think everyone here, and including the YouTube as well as the live chat right now, is well aware of your reputation within the Lost Ark community. But the concept, just the concept of you going from where you were as a content creator, because if I remember correctly, please correct me if I'm wrong. But when I started getting to the space, I feel like you're at a couple of hundred, which to begin with is very, very, very difficult to get to. But I feel like maybe a couple of hundred viewers, concurrent viewer average. And then as the game started picking up, went 5, 6, and now you're in the thousands. And, no thanks to YouTube, like comparatively speaking, versus like me, it's all thanks to my YouTube. For you, it's just you continued to build that. Like, how did you do it? Like, how did you get to the size that you're at without actually pulling from YouTube and just constantly streaming?
The trick was a guide that I wrote. I wrote a guide. I started writing that guide about a year and a half ago. It was around the turn of Lost Ark's transition from season 1 to season 2. And during that time, a lot of things about Lost Ark were changing. And there really weren't English-speaking players playing on the Korean service at that time. Besides for, I think, just 3 others that I could think of off the top of my head: Ned Clay, Turok, Oliveri, and that was it. And I realized that when the other regions would get these changes, a lot of people would be very confused. So I started working on a text guide, and I was working on it over time, and it began circulating and making the rounds. And a lot of the old guard of Lost Ark, people who played the game before it came out in the West, used it as a resource for learning the game, since I was keeping it gradually updated. And I think that guide and, the existing Lost Ark community before the game launched in the West is what kind of propped me up as kind of a knowledge base for the game, rather than just a player. And from there, of course, I put up a few videos of major accomplishments like hell mode clears and whatnot. And those circulated, especially among like really big content creators that did react content to it. And so a lot of people kind of saw me as a more knowledgeable or skillful player. And yeah, it just went from there. I mean, it started with a very, very small but core community, and now it's a larger, still core, and also very degenerate community nowadays.
Right. Yeah, that guide that you made, it's like you're referring to the guide that like everyone considers as like the Lost Ark Bible, right? I think that's what it's called, right? Yeah. So are you still actively updating that? that Google Doc?
Mm, I need to, but I'm currently waiting for some changes in Korea
Right.
from this month and maybe the next month before I go in and fix it. Most of it's up to date, but
Hmm.
there's probably a few things here and there that I should adjust along the way.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So, you've got one of the biggest channels, concurrent viewership wise, when it comes to the Lost Ark community on Twitch. By the way, congratulations for all your success as a content creator.
Thank you, thank you.
A lot of respect to that decision that you made, which feels like very recently. I guess it was a month or two ago now, before the launch, right? To go
Yeah.
full time as a content creator, because you're doing pretty well. I mean, you had a pretty good job here in Korea, and you know, I've always wanted to ask you about that decision, to push to change your career path as a full-time content creator. It's worked out for
Mm,
you great, right? It's worked out for you great. But like for
yes.
me, my personal opinion, and I hope no one finds this offensive, but for me, I was very surprised because I was like, man, this game, like we have no idea how successful Lost Ark is going to be. Like, it might turn out to be like New World, or it might turn out to be like Wild Star. You never know. Like the game could flop and just die, right? So it's like if you're a
Mm,
Lost Ark creator, and the game dies, because everyone gets kind of propped up during the launch, right? Like everyone,
yeah,
the
of course.
numbers inflated, and the decision to go full time at that moment or during that time period, I felt like was such a ballsy play. I was like, wow, that like, and I remember talking to my mods and my inner circle about it. I was like, man, I don't think Saint's gonna give up his full time job. Like, there's no way. There's way too much risk there to do that.
Hmm.
And you fucking did it, and you're killing it. Like, walk me through that. Can you kind of share what was happening through that process there?
Yeah, so it's not the first time I tried streaming to make a living. The first time that I tried was years back,
Okay.
when I still lived in the States and everything, and it didn't work out that well.
Mm.
The viewership was okay,
What is
but
okay?
um, like a couple hundred, I
Couple
guess.
hundred? Okay. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And that translates to like a couple hundred subs, right?
Sure.
And at the time, I just didn't really know much about streaming full time, and it just wasn't really enough money,
Yeah.
and it was very stressful. Depending on that solely as your sole source of income, and the worst part about it is because of how stressful it was on a month by month basis, it turned what was otherwise a hobby into uh just perilous thing every
Mm.
month. Because at the end of the day, streaming is it's glorified pandering, it's entertainment. You put out your hat, you hope that a couple people put a few bucks in it. Um this time around was a little bit different because one, I had already been working professionally for a few years now, and so I had a fallback plan in case it didn't work out. That was the first thing. I gave myself a safety net. If streaming didn't work out, I could always return back to the video game industry.
Okay.
I could find another job. I have a portfolio that would get me there. But I also talked to my mom about this, uh, and my mom is an advocate of when you're young, take risks. If you fail, you can get back on your feet. When you're older, you can't do that. When you're older, you're saddled by responsibilities, obligations, and dependencies. Whether you're seeing someone or have a family at that point, you can't take risks when you're older. But when you're younger, you can fall completely flat on your face, and it's fine. Just a few
Mm.
bruises, you'll get back up.
Mm.
And that's why my mom was like, "Oh, try day trading. You lose all your money, whatever, you'll get it back." Didn't work out for me, by the way.
You did day trading.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
tried it.
yeah. Yes, by
Wow.
the advice of one of my friends who's also a streamer named Vero, and he made a lot of money from day trading, and he was like, "Hey, try this out." And I tried it out, and then he also warned me that day trading and stocks in general is living a life of regrets constantly. Every day you're saddled by new regrets. And I realized very quickly what he meant, and I was like, this isn't for me.
Mm.
Too stressful, too stressful.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So my mom, advocate of taking risks, and she thought it was a good idea. She was like, "Oh, you could work a 9 to 5 job, make 60 grand a year, and yeah, if you save up for a while, you could live a very average life, or you can take a risk, and if it works out really well, you could live a more richer and more fruitful life. And if you don't take that risk, you'll never know
Right.
if it turned out." So through the advice and support of my mom, I was like, okay. And then I told my boss that I wanted to do this full time streaming, and surprisingly, he and my other colleagues, they threw their support behind me as well. They were like, do your best. We understand your decision, and if you need a job, just reach out, contact
Yeah.
us. So I was a very, very, very lucky person. I had the support of many people, my family, my coworkers, and fellow content creators, and I just went for it, and it worked out spectacularly. So I think a lot of it is luck, and I think that also speaks a lot about streaming in general. Is that very, very few people who make it streaming, they don't plan that. It's something that lands on their lap, and then they either take it or they don't. Many a successful streamer will tell you that they didn't expect it to happen,
Mm.
but it did, and that's what an opportunity is.
Absolutely. Well said. Yeah. I mean, I think it's fantastic that you have a really good relationship with that. And you're right, you're right. You've got that relationship there, so if streaming doesn't work out, God forbid, you still have those opportunities and relationships to fall back on. But it doesn't right now. It looks pretty good, right? Like your numbers look great. It does. But moving forward, though, Lost Ark, talk to me about what you think of Lost Ark as a game, not as a game to play as a gamer, but like as a game to stream and be a content creator for. Do you think that Lost Ark
Mm,
is going to continue to be what it is? Do you think it's going to kind of, like, I kind of put it in levels, right? Like I kind of have, like, World of Warcraft as like the gold standard. I'm talking about like Twitch viewership here, right? Like, as we're talking about content
yeah.
creating, Twitch viewership. World of Warcraft as an MMO always been the gold standard. And then Final Fantasy, it's popular, but it's viewership number wise, it's never there with WoW, but it's there. You could, there's a lot of full-time people, and even BDO, a little bit more niche, but there is a lot of BDO creators there. And then you have, like, you know all the other MMOs that are just like, there's no way you could make a living. Like, there's like fucking less than 1,000 concurrent viewers peak in a day. You know what I mean? Like, where do you see Lost Ark?
It's top. It's top tier for sure in that regard. As far
Mm-hmm.
as like a streamer and viewership goes,
Mm-hmm.
it's right up there with a game like World of Warcraft. And
Right.
there's a few reasons why.
Sure. And you mean,
The
like,
first,
continue? Sorry for cutting you off, but just to clarify,
mm,
you mean, like, not just now? Obviously, now it's top tier because it's, just launched. But you're talking about moving forward, even in the future, it's
yeah,
gonna be okay.
yeah,
Okay.
it is. The first reason why is the game was already established. Even before
Sure.
the game came out in the West, it was not abnormal to see the game sitting at 20, 30 plus thousand viewers. And if there was a spectacular event going on, it would climb to 70, 80 plus thousand
Yeah.
viewers from the Korean community alone, just that by itself. And so it was already a proven successful spectator game. And I mentioned this when I was speaking to Asman and Rich on Allcraft. Um, as far as a spectator game goes, uh, Lost Ark is actually very, very easy to watch.
Hmm.
For someone who is either a fan of the game or knows nothing about the game, it is a surprisingly fun game to watch. The
Hmm.
the visuals are flashy. Even if you don't know what the spells do, you see the character fighting and it looks cool. And it's action combat. It's not tab target, so everything's very dynamic and moving. And this is opposed to a game like World of Warcraft. I recently watched World of Warcraft, and I thought to myself, the only person who could watch World of Warcraft is someone who plays World of Warcraft.
Yeah.
This game is very confusing. I don't understand anything going on during the raids, and the same actually applied when I watched Final Fantasy stuff. Final Fantasy, surprisingly hard to watch. You can't really understand anything that's going on. The only streams that I found to be palatable were the ones that were actually not doing raid content, because I was
Hmm.
like, okay, this is interesting. Whether it's MSQ related stuff or social related stuff, this is easy to watch. So Lost Ark has that benefit where it's just a really, really, really easy game to watch. The other thing that makes it like a good game to stream long term is the game has a future, and that is surprisingly rare from Korean MMOs.
It
Many of them
is.
just kind of fizzle out and die. I mean, just look at Elion. That game
Yeah.
is that game is DOA, or
Yeah.
that game was DOA, and now it's very, very dead. And there's many examples of Korean MMOs that have launched and failed in record times. Lost Ark had a pedigree before its launch. There was a lot of people who propped it up as, the savior of Korean MMOs,
Hmm.
simply based off of all the news that surfaced around it around the time that all the scandals happened with other MMOs in Korea, and all the people flocked over to Lost Ark. And it's like, it was painted as a game that didn't treat its players like trash, which is common in what is otherwise seen as a predatory MMO scene, from games coming out from Korea. I think a lot of people in the West view games in Korea with this certain stigma that they are pay to win, predatory, and just blatant cash grabs that are there to take your money and then run after a few months. Lost Ark was seen as something otherwise. The developers were seen in this incredible light, and for the most part, it's Lost Ark is seen as a game where the players actually like the developer, and would be amazed at how rare that is.
Yeah.
Even people, I even asked this to World of Warcraft fans, and nobody hates World of Warcraft more than the people who play it. You know,
Yeah.
but people tend to actually like Smilegate, and that is a very promising thing for the long run, and they've detailed a pretty lengthy roadmap as well. And I think that's what keeps me interested in Lost Ark more so than anything else. Is I have a vote of confidence that they won't screw it up long term, and I can't say that I felt that about many games that I've played.
Right. Yeah. So, um, Lost Ark, from a numbers perspective, that was definitely something that, like, because, like, for me, when I was getting into content creating, I wanted to do it. And, like, at the time, I felt like, okay, you've got New World coming out and you got, like, Lost Ark coming out. And I
Hmm.
honestly felt like I felt like the likelihood of Lost Ark becoming one of those top tier games was very high. It's for the exact same reasons that you just said. Like, when I did my
Hmm.
due diligence, I was like, okay, I think this is going to be I don't know if it's going to be, if it's going to have sustained numbers like WoW or Final Fantasy, but I was like, at the very least, it's going to be like BDO numbers. There's no way that this is a game that dies after a few months. There's just no way. But then
Right.
New World, I felt like this is a game that could die. I felt like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't see New World being like a top MMORPG to be streamed over, for years to come. I felt like Lost Ark was definitely that game. Now, there are new games that are popping up all the time, right? Is Lost Ark is Lost Ark it for you? Like kind of like with the WoW creators, where it's like they'll play other games, but then they're still playing WoW. Is Lost Ark that game for you, or or are you planning on expanding to playing other games that come out? Like for example, Ashes of Creation is a game that a lot of people are talking about, and if that Riot MMO gets released, which we don't know if it will, and it's way in the future anyway. That's supposed to be another game that's got a lot of hype, and of course, Korea. Korea is always releasing all these new MMORPGs as well. Um, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, Lost Ark keeps me really busy. I
It
play a lot of
does.
characters, and there's always new. Like, first of all, the content cadence for the release cycle for new content in Lost Ark is abnormally fast. It
Mm,
is really uncommon from MMOs to push out content at a pace that um, really keeps their players really interested. And it's very normal for games to release only like one or two content patches a year, like one in the
mm,
summer, one in the winter during peak season. But Lost Ark managed to pump out content once every couple months, 2 or 3 months at most. Right now we're in a dry spell, but presumably that's because the scope of Smilegate's work now includes the breadth of the West as well. And maybe they're stretched a bit thin, things are getting delayed, yada yada yada. But this is kind of like the longest that we've gone without like
mm.
new content. Though we just got Hell Cook Satan, which kept us busy for a few weeks. And frankly speaking, it comes out at a pace that it never really feels like there's a dead period, which can be a pro or a con, depending on how you look at it. As far as like a pro goes, it's great. You can keep playing, keep playing. There's always something to work towards. Lost Ark has very steep vertical progression, and so anything that you do is working towards getting stronger.
Mm.
The con is, well, it's hard to put the game down. And the reason why that's a con is people have lives and they want to check out other things. And so it can be very scary, the idea of putting down a game, feeling like you're now falling behind because
Right.
you're not playing it, and finding that time to play something else. For me, I feel that certainly. I feel like if I don't play Lost Ark for an extended period of time, then that's stuff that I'm missing out on. Go figure. But at the same time, I do want to check stuff out. I had a plan that I think next month that I was going to start doing one day of the week where I check out other games. I was
Oh,
going to do it on
that's
Tuesday.
awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to do that on Tuesdays because that's the day before weekly reset in Korea, when
Yeah.
like that's the least amount of stuff that you have uh, to do. Like all your homework's done, so you got a little bit of time. And I did want to check out a couple of other MMOs that haven't released yet. Obviously, I'm curious about games like Project BBQ, for example, from
Hmm.
Neopol. But
I heard
that's
that
still
got
some time
canceled.
away. I don't know if it got canceled. I know they're working on a couple of projects like Project Overkill and
Hmm.
whatnot, like the newer updated look of DNF.
Hmm.
But my point is, I just like if
Sure.
I could use it as a day where I can kind of go outside my bubble and look at other games. So my
Yeah.
intent with it was more like finding crappy games on Steam and playing those, because I'm a tremendous fan of streamers on the site like Lyric and Soda Poppin and their variety streams. They just
Yeah.
look so much fun, and it's hard to sink your time into like another long-term project or a big project. So I think that's like bite-sized, like a quick game that you find on
Sure.
Steam that you can beat in like 2 hours is like perfect for that kind of thing.
Okay. So in the immediate future, what games are on your horizon? Like if you were to start that starting next week, when would you start it, by the way? But if you were to start it next week, what would be the first few games that you'd try out on
I
that
don't know. I
Tuesday
think I would
stream?
just I would just open Steam and just, if I find something interesting, and just go with it. Probably indie games, again, something that you can finish in one session, something
Hmm.
that not something like Persona, where it would take like a week straight to play through. Elden Ring. Well, Elden Ring. I've played up through all the Souls game, but I figured they're
Hmm.
gonna release DLC eventually for it, and I would just wait for that,
Right.
among other fixes. But you know, just whatever I can find. Open Steam, just go
Right.
basically dumpster diving. Yeah.
Would you ever try like I don't know a new expansion in Final Fantasy, or maybe even the new expansion that they just released for, or they just announced for WoW? Do you see yourself ever trying those out on stream? Because I feel like
You play WoW?
people do. I don't play WoW, but I did play a little bit. I did try to get into it during
Hmm.
Shadowlands launch. Yeah.
I have not played WoW in over 15 years now.
Yeah.
Whenever I bring up World of Warcraft, I see people every it's the same thing every time. I see W Omega Lol W without fail every time. And I, I guess I look at the scandals in the last like year or two, and all the wrongdoings of Blizzard in World of Warcraft, and again, nobody hates World of Warcraft more than World of Warcraft players, and I just don't see it because I personally have incredibly fond memories of that game. I have
Mm.
very untarnished, pure, unsolicited memories of just a younger me, uh, blissfully and very ignorantly exploring the game at his own leisure. And so I haven't played the game since then. I don't think I will ever play the game again. But I only have good memories of it. So I always feel bad when people rag on it because I almost feel like it's unfair. But then
Mm.
the people who are ragging on it are people who are actually playing it. And I'm like, I can't say that I know more about the game than they do.
Sure. Sure. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. So Lost Ark is it for you then? Like continuing as a streamer for as long as it's around, you don't really see yourself, trying the new expansion because you did mention, people being variety streamers. Is as a streamer, like as a Twitch streamer, is it just going to be Lost Ark moving forward and that's it, or do you see maybe yourself kind of going in a different direction where you're, maybe I don't know, like being like Asmongold, where you try every new MMO that comes out and then you get your reactions out, something like that, or are you just going to be a Lost Ark specialist?
When I play an MMO, I get hooked on it.
Mm,
And Lost Ark is still in its infancy. Even though I've been
it
playing for
is.
almost 4 years now, the game's not actually 4 years old. It's like almost 2 years old now. And as
Mhm.
far as like MMO lifespans go, that's very early.
It
That's
is.
very, very, very early. So I feel like there's so much for me to do. The thought and knowing that the current story that we've played through in Lost Ark so far is only about ankle deep.
Hmm.
They've already confirmed that everything that we've done up until this point is only like 10 to 15% of the overall story. There's just so much for me to. I can't see myself dropping the game anytime soon, and because of that, and again because of the content cadence, it's like there's not really a lot of opportunities for me to put the game down because it's like, okay, well, the moment things start getting a little stale, they drop like a new raid or something, and then that keeps me busy, or a new class, and that keeps me busy, new types of contents that keeps me busy, and at the moment, I'm only playing on the Cretan server. I've completely shelved my NA account because we have a huge update coming out in Korea really soon.
Hmm. Hmm.
Algacia and balance stuff, and then summer will be rearing its head in really soon as well, and
Hmm.
then that'll come with possibly the Fifth Legion Commander raid, new class, the Aeromancer, and it's like there's no shortage of things to do.
Yeah. There's a lot of content that's planned
Yeah,
that was shown in that Loa on
yes.
event. So NA, like, is that because because Vulcan isn't out yet and there's nothing to do, or is that just because you're like, hey, you know what? Forget NA. I just want to focus on KR. There's a lot of content coming. I'm not gonna have time to play NA anyway. I'm just gonna play KR.
Yeah, it's just prioritization. I spent the first month of the NA launch just
Hmm.
hardcore leveling up 6 characters to tier 3, playing them all every day. And then Hell Cook Satan came out, and I was like, okay, priority shift. And I
Mm.
focused on that. and we have the Elgacia update coming out, and that is brand new content, new raids that is important for my progression. Even before the game came out in the West, I was very upfront and I said that NA would not be my main server.
Sure.
KR would continue to be my main server. That's where I've spent all my time up until now, and that's where I've got a lot of friends and guildmates and everything. So I was never planning on leaving
Hmm.
KR, but at the same time, playing in NA is an opportunity to actually get to play with the majority of my viewership, my community that has hung out with me day in and day out, and they cannot play with me in Korea. The only way that I can play with them is if I go over to them,
Sure.
and even then, I only have the one account in NA West, so I can't even play with people in NA East
The NA
or
East,
Europe
yeah.
or South America. I can't. It's too difficult to raise characters on every single one of these servers where I can play with all of them. And so the NA West account is purely for that purpose. And so I played without without spending anything when the West came out, and I just want to try that out because I'm a whale in Korea. I was like, okay, what's it like to play free to play? And I was like, okay, well, this is pretty fun. But now I don't have time, and what time you don't have, you solve with money. That's the purpose
Right.
of pay to win in these kinds of games. Is if you don't have time, you offset it with money. And so my plan was when Fulton came out in the West, I would start swiping in the West to bring the character up since I'm not farming there actively.
Hmm.
And yeah, and that would be how I would get to play with members of the community at that
Okay.
point.
Gotcha. Okay. So yeah, sounds. I actually I was aware that you're gonna prioritize KR, but I saw that you're putting a lot of hours in NA during the launch. And I figured it was just because of the whole NA launch type of thing. It's the fresh server, but it does sound like you're gonna continue to play NA, but in the same way
Launches are
that
fun in
they
this
are.
game. I've played every single launch of this game, and they are always fun. And the West, easily the best of the launches,
Really.
because Russia and Japan, they launched with Shoeshire as their end content.
Hmm.
Russia did not have even abyssal dungeons, and Japan's end content was Necromancer's Origin. That was it. That was it. They had awful launches, but the rush level to 50, grinding a dungeon to finish those last few levels, and um just really everything about game launches. And it's not exclusive to Lost Ark either. Basically every MMO game launch is always super fun,
Oh yeah,
and
for
so
sure.
um Lost Ark coming out in the West, it was a ton of fun. And
Hmm.
as I mentioned, I only have a few hours of free time each day. I spend a lot of it reading manhwa. Do you
Yeah.
read any by any chance?
I don't. I'm not. Yeah, I don't have. Unfortunately, I don't have time to actually do that because I work full time as well, and
Right.
I'm definitely short on time. But yeah, please
Yeah. So
continue. Yeah.
I spend time weeb out on my own. I watch anime. I read manhwa, hentai. It's all great. And honestly, like, there's this one genre. Well, actually, in terms of like anime, like, there's a genre that people love called isekai, where like they die and they're reborn in another world.
Uh huh.
Most of the anime that come out in that genre, complete garbage. It's filth.
Okay.
It's self-insert, wish fulfillment, of like, oh, you wish you were this person with like a harem of large-chested anime girls like frothing
Hmm.
over them. That's what these animes serve to
Sure.
do.
Sure.
In the case of manhwa, it's very popular. It's like a genre called returner kind of stuff, where people like
Okay.
die and they're reborn, but with like their memories intact,
Okay.
and now they have this huge advantage. It's almost like a cheat code, right?
Right.
Where they go through their life again, but now they have future memories. And Me going through these launches of Lost Ark again is the closest that I'll ever get to that. I go through with all
Right.
this knowledge and expertise on the game. I know how to beat every single boss. I know how to
Uh-huh.
make gold easily. That's literally what it is,
Right.
and it's fun every single time.
You know what else is fun, Saint? Hentai is also really fun. What I noticed that was in there. I noticed that was in
I
there.
don't know what you're talking about. I
Oh,
didn't
okay.
say that.
Oh, you didn't. Okay, sorry. I must have misheard
Interesting
you.
that you bring that up, though. What did
I
you want to say
well,
about
I
it?
was just gonna ask you what kinds you're into. You know, if that was something that you're willing to openly discuss. That's all.
You
Yeah.
know what it's like? It doesn't matter if it's porn or hentai or anything. You open
Uh-huh.
20 tabs, you find the one thing, yeah, have your fun, and then you close all 20 tabs, and that's it.
That that is so true, though. Oh my god, it's so
Yeah.
true. You just go to the browsing section and you just like, I don't know about you, but I use that. I actually use the middle mouse button feature. You know how it opens up a new tab. Like if you, I don't know if you guys know. I'm sure, assuming you guys know, right? If you hover your mouse over a video and you push the middle mouse button, it just automatically opens a tab. It opens it in
Hmm.
a tab. It does. It's a nice little shortcut. I'm just like going through the list, middle mouse button, and all of a sudden I'm like, all right, I'm ready, and I look up and I'm like 20 tabs. I'm like, wait, which one? Go through one by one, and then you choose the one, and you're like, okay, and then when you're done, you're 100% like literally you described me. Like when you said that, I'm like, okay, it's close.
That was a nice little life hack you shared. I'll use it later.
Yeah, and if you hit middle mouse,
Um,
if you hit middle mouse button, I'll show you this right here too. I'll actually show you this here. If you look at this right here, so I see this. If I hit this, it's gonna open. Oops, it's gonna open this tab. So yeah, just Zeals, bam, opens. And if I don't want to, if we've got a lot of these open, and I see this one's what I want to watch, I go boop 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 boop. Yep, we're done here. We're done here. We're done here. Just middle mouse button pushing, man. Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's so fun. You know, okay, funny story, Saint. Back to a little bit of real life talk. Have you been to Singapore?
I don't think so. No.
Really? I've been to Singapore. I went there before the pandemic. It was the last place that I went on vacation. I met up with this girl, and she's a very cute girl, gamer girl too. Very, very cute, very cute girl. And she was the first girl that I had met in real life that was
Hmm.
actually very much into hentai. In fact, it was the only thing that got her off.
I didn't know that you were going there. I was like, you've never met a girl before that point ever in your life. That's something. Wow, that went somewhere where I wasn't expecting either.
I thought we were still on the topic of hentai. I apologize. I thought we were still there. Oh my gosh. So you're big into anime. Okay. I will say, I very much like anime. I know you're talking about mana, but like it's, you know, mana, anime, kind of the same category, right? I'm a big fan of Attack on Titan. That is probably my most favorite anime, and I haven't been able to watch the final season yet, just because I literally have not had time to sit down and enjoy a TV show. And yeah, I thought I would share that with you. I'm a big fan of Attack on Titan. I like anime that has like deep story behind it, or anything critical thinking. I also like Death Note, where it was like a battle of intellect. You know what I mean? What kind of animes are you into? Or what
I
other
watched
animes?
mostly seasonal stuff. I actually only started watching anime, like actually watching it on my own volition, starting in 2016.
Okay, so you prefer
So
to read the manas then instead of actually watch anime?
yeah, I mean there's that, but I just whatever's popular in the season, I'll watch it. Like right now in this season, there's two that I'm actively watching, which is Spy X Family and Shield Hero.
Okay.
Both of those super fun to watch. Whenever I do have time, and fortunately, you know, since I'm watching it on a week by week basis. these episodes, they take like 20, 30 minutes to watch. I can have that with like a meal before like starting my own stream. It doesn't take a lot of time. It's entertaining. Same thing with Manuel. So it's just like, oh, there's a new chapter update. It takes me like 5, 10 minutes to read
Hmm.
through it. It's just like bite-sized stuff, and it's not just like anime either. I like television series as well. I don't have an active Netflix account at the moment, but there's a lot of stuff on Netflix that's just like pretty fun to watch. Like my favorite Netflix series that I watched as of recently was a Japanese produced show called Alice in Borderlands.
Oh
Okay.
yes, I heard that was
Yeah,
really good.
yeah, and I'm waiting for a season 2 for it as well. And it's like it's just easy entertainment because uh I don't stop by Twitch streams as often as I wish I did.
Mm.
Like, you've never seen me pop in your channel and say hi before, but that's like the same for everyone. I've barely popped into like Oops' channel. I've never popped into Zeals' channel, Datmod's Rise, all those guys. I just don't find time to do it.
Sure.
And same thing with YouTube is like, well, I've kind of found myself in a situation where anything that I was enjoying to watch on YouTube, I've exhausted it pretty much. There's not that much YouTube content that I find interesting anymore either. So um, things like anime and whatnot is more or less the extent of how I spend my
Excuse
free
me.
time now. And maybe that speaks volume to my character that maybe I'm not the most interesting fella. I could be going out and seeing the world a little bit more, but I don't know. I think I've gotten fairly comfortable. Yeah, fairly comfortable, and I'm starting to feel my age catch up to me.
My age. Wait, how are you? How old are? Do I know your age? Have you told me how old you were before? I don't think you have. I don't think we've talked about age before, right?
Yeah, I mentioned it in passing,
I thought. Yeah,
but
I thought. Yeah. Okay.
right. This June, I am turning 39. Yeah.
I definitely did know that. There's no
Hmm.
way I knew that. I would have remembered that. You're
Yeah.
turning 39.
Yeah. And if we go by Korean age, I'll be in my 40s.
You're already in your 40s. Yeah. Yeah. Did
Yeah.
you know that they're removing that now? I swear to God. Apparently, some Koreans don't know. But all my Korean, my clients and my Korean friends, they're apparently removing that Korean age thing. It's
Hmm.
kind of good. There's no way. Yeah. There's no way. You're trolling. You're definitely trolling. There's no way you're turning 39. There's no way. No, because here's the thing, chat. Here's the thing. Sometimes on camera, okay? Sometimes on camera versus in person, it could look a little different, right? Like
Hmm.
people can look different. So there are some people that look really young on camera, but then when you see them in person, you're like, oh, okay, yeah, I can kind of see
Well, we're
see the age
Asian,
there.
so
Yeah. Like even for Asians, what kind of Asian are you, by the way, Saint?
hmm. I'm Vietnamese.
Are you really?
Yes, I am.
Okay, the whole world thinks you're Korean.
I know, and uh, even Vietnamese people don't think I look Vietnamese. I've had
Really?
more Vietnamese people think that I look Korean before they think that I'm Vietnamese.
Oh, wow. My last guest that was on my podcast was also Vietnamese. Gina Darling from
Hmm.
G4. Yeah. She's
Yeah.
Vietnamese. Yeah. Okay, so a 39-year-old Vietnamese guy playing video games in Korea. That's a great combination.
In all honesty, I just turned 29 last year, so
Oh,
this year's
okay.
my last year in my 20s. Uh, and I'm kind of scared because I've been told by many people that your 30s go by fast, really
Mm.
fast.
Well,
Like
mm,
you have your 30th birthday, you go to sleep, you wake up, and you're already 39.
hmm.
That's scary. That's very intimidating to me because I barely know where my
Yeah.
20s went. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm in the process of timing it, but I'm pretty sure it's gonna just be the same speed as the 20s. But but to be perfectly honest, that made me think a little bit because I think I would actually agree with that. But I think it's because in your 30s, this is very subjective to the person, obviously, but like in your 30s, you just have more responsibilities. Like,
Mm.
you know, on average, the average person's probably gonna have more responsibilities, which means that that person is just doing more things, right? Like, for example, I don't think you were streaming 12 hours every day and going
No,
to
of
bed,
course
you know what I mean?
not.
Like back in your, you know, when you're 18 years old, right? So I think that's what
Yeah.
makes it feel fast. Because I'm 34 and yeah, I'm actually like, as you mentioned that, I'm kind of like, where the fuck did these last 4 years go? Like it went by
Yeah.
pretty fucking quick. Yeah, that's actually kind of scary.
But, you know, a lot of it also has to do with the fact that since like my day to day is so homogenous, it's all the
Yeah.
same on a day by day basis. Everything just kind of blends into each other. Like, here's an example. It's already April. I swear to
Mm.
God, I was just watching Loa on the other day in
Mm.
December. And we're already a third into this year. The roadmap in Korea is about to get a refresh. We're at the end of the first third of the year, and it's just going by so fast,
It
so
is.
unbelievably fast. And before I know it, it'll be 2023, and we'll be looking at the next level on. And every single day is the same exact as the previous day, and it
Mm.
all just kind of meshes together. So, you know, one thing that I kind of realized, actually very recently, is you don't you kind of have to once you reach a certain age, you kind of have to like, if you want to go out and experience the world, the only person that's going to get yourself to go out and do that is yourself.
Mm.
When you're younger, you know, you just kind of tag along with your parents everywhere. They plan the vacations and everything. I haven't taken a single vacation since I moved out here on my own. I just, no one's going to tell you to do that.
Right.
You have to
Why
do it
haven't
yourself.
you?
Just didn't think about it. During
Okay.
work, I was like, oh, if I take a vacation, then I won't get work done. And they had me take vacation days because they're like, I have to take vacation days.
Yeah. Well, you know,
Spend those vacation days at home playing video games,
oh,
chilling,
really?
instead of like planning out a vacation to just like go out.
Right.
Yeah,
Can I, can
haven't done that.
can I ask you this, Saint? How much of Korea have you seen?
Not much. I visited one of my friends, James,
Okay.
and I've been out in Seoul a little bit. Just you're really just tagging along with people the
Uh
entire
huh.
time, every time. I didn't come here with the intent of seeing
Sure.
the country. I came here for work.
Right.
And I guess that mindset stuck with me. And I never really thought, oh, you should go out and experience the country while you are here. Um, yeah, so I guess I just haven't seen much. And I don't know if I should change that before I leave or if I just am content. I used to have like thoughts of like, oh, I'll go see Japan because like everyone thinks about visiting Japan at some point or
Yeah.
another.
Super close
It's just,
too.
yeah, and it's just like just experience the culture, check out the local stuff there, yada yada yada. Try out the food. That's my main motive when
Mm-hmm.
it comes to traveling. Is I'm a big food buff. I just like
Okay.
to try food. Um, but I don't know. I think it's probably not a good thing, but I've kind of fallen to a certain point of complacency where I'm just happy to be at home,
Mm-hmm.
um, watch anime, stream, play video games,
Sure.
talk to people on Discord. Just very homebody kind of things.
Yeah. Have you been outside of have you been to any other Asian country outside of Korea?
No, not really. I haven't visited Japan.
I
I
honestly
mean,
think you'll like Japan, by the way.
huh?
I think you would love Japan, by the way.
Huh.
Yeah, I
Why do
think
you think
you
that?
two reasons. Number one, the food is really good. Like, and I'm not just talking about just the quality, but like there's so many different variety, like with everything, like fucking chocolates or steaks or fucking, you know, just
Hmm.
hibachi, whatever. Just like so many different types of, just a lot of high quality variety, you know, like even ramen, like different ramens, um and it's just so clean and good that it's just fun eating. I mean, it's kind of the same with every country you go to. Like it's like, oh, I haven't tried this, I haven't tried this, I haven't tried this. But I feel like that is like at another level in Japan. Just like there's so many delicious foods that you can get, whether it's desserts or cutlets. By the way, I'm sure you've had like the tonkatsu here, right? Like the cutlet, the
Yes.
pork cutlets
Yes. Of
here.
course.
Like the pork, like even Koreans will tell you the pork cutlets in Japan are on another level. Like it's
Oh, that's pretty
really
cool.
really good, really good. Yeah.
Outside of that, I have been to Vietnam, but that was like 15 years ago at this point.
Oh,
And at
okay.
this point, the country is completely different.
Sure.
It's actually developed a little bit. It's kind of meandered its way away from being like a third world country to more of a developing country.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not really sure what it's like there nowadays, but I just haven't traveled much. And I know that one day I would love to travel and see Europe. I've always had that on my mind for the longest time is I would love to visit European countries and like check that out. But yeah, I just don't travel much, and the last time I really traveled was when I was still with my parents. Yeah,
Hmm.
because they love traveling, and it was just like always tagging along. Um,
Right. Right. Any travel plans for 2022? Is this going to be the year where you go to Japan maybe or somewhere?
Probably not. No, isn't COVID still like a very valid concern when it comes to
Yeah,
traveling at the
it's
moment?
starting to be really loose now. I don't know if you're
Hmm.
aware, but they just very recently removed the quarantine restrictions for Korea as well. So if you're vaccinated,
Hmm.
you don't have to quarantine when you come back in. Like I couldn't leave the country for I didn't I haven't left in like 2 or 3 years, however long it's been, because of that very reason. Like you used to have to quarantine like fucking 2 weeks. It was insane, and I think that changed it to like a week, and now you don't have to quarantine at all. So it's a lot easier to travel, and I think traveling is starting to pick up. I don't know what the restrictions are in Japan right now though, but and yeah, and obviously in America it's like it's not even like a thing anymore.
Yeah.
When's the last time you've been to the state back to the Jesus, sorry. When's the last time you went back to the States in America?
Haven't visited since I left, so it's been about 3 years.
Yeah.
My folks, they live in the New England area,
Oh,
and
okay.
I've got two sisters, my mom and my stepdad. I don't think they're planning on moving anywhere from there, honestly. So I think about visiting them from time to time, but I also don't like traveling. I don't like getting on airplanes, and I just everything about traveling is such a nuisance. And at this point, it's even harder because now I'm full time streaming. If I go traveling anywhere, that could be like time that I'm not streaming, and um, streaming to me is every day you don't stream is kind of a missed opportunity to
Hmm.
meet new people or accomplish new things. Um, and so that's one of the things that keeps me from taking breaks. It's like, oh, but if I stream today, I could have done this, this, and this.
Hmm.
Um, it's a very busy mindset to approach with it. But at the same time, what keeps me sane when it comes to streaming is I've managed to diversify my income a little bit, so I don't rely solely on streaming. And so even if not a single person ever subbed or donated in my channel ever again, uh, I would be okay, and I wouldn't have to stress out about it, and I could keep doing it and still focus on the fun aspects of it. That is what keeps me as sane and not staring at like um You know what's scary as a streamer? When you get a lot of gifted subs and then the next month, like no one renews them, and so you see your sub count just like
Yeah,
completely
yeah.
nosedive. And it's like, okay, I don't have to worry about that anymore. If it nosedives, it nosedives.
Mm,
It's fine. I'll be okay. So having a bit of security means that I can stream for the purpose that I wanted to stream, which is having
sure.
fun and then still be able to sustain myself.
Right, right. Well,
Yeah.
good for you, man. That's fantastic. How was it difficult for you to figure out ways to diversify, or did that come with the growth of your channel? Did those opportunities come with the growth of your channel?
They came with the growth of my channel.
Hmm.
I got picked up by Sentinels, and I got a good sponsorship deal with a computer brand called iBuyPower, and then
Mm,
between the two of those alone, I could get by somewhat comfortably. And like there's other sponsorship opportunities that come along the way as well, but I get kind of scared about commercializing too
mm-hmm.
much because I don't want it to be like I don't want to be like a walking billboard.
I gotcha.
And so I've gotten really picky. I've rejected most offers. I'm sure you probably get in your email all the time, like sponsorship opportunities that like float around 2,000 emails of Raid Shadow Legends and that kind of crap.
Man, Raid Shadow Legends. It's like Raid Shadow Legends upon Raid Shadow Legends. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's
And they pay the most too. It's like they don't even give a fuck.
they do, but
They
it's the
just
equivalent of going to an elementary school and
yeah,
asking the kids if they want crack. You shouldn't do it.
yeah.
It's bad. Maybe
It's like
unethical.
it's like, hi, we'll pay you. By the way, this is made up numbers. By the way, made up numbers. This is just for the sake of comedy. They'd be like, hi, we'll pay you $1,000. They'd be like, no, 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 I'm not interested. Okay, you got us for $10,000. No, like seriously, I'm not gonna do it.
Yeah,
$20,000. Let's go.
I'm sure there's people in chat that are curious about it. Like,
Hmm.
I think the most recent offer that I got from them was like, oh, we'll pay you like $8,000, but if you get 400 people to install the game and get through the tutorial, we'll pay you like an extra like 20,000 on top of that
Right.
for like a 2 hour bit. And I'm like, you want me to get people hooked on your mobile game and get into a spending addiction? I'm already peddling Lost Ark to these people. I can't fall that deep into the moral rabbit hole, okay?
Hmm.
One is
Hmm.
enough.
That mindset. Wow, that is a that type of perspective is definitely something else, and I think that's a big part of your appeal too. By the way, Saint, that you
Hmm.
have that type of perspective. I think that characteristic of you is a big contributing factor to really the success of your growth. Really, to be perfectly honest, I'll be honest. I never thought of it that from that perspective. I really didn't. I never did.
Hmm.
So that's yeah. Hashtag respect to that for real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I've learned that
By the way, my
definitely.
perspective of it
Hmm.
was like who the hell's get like nobody's getting addicted to Raid Shadow Legends. That was my perspective to be
I
honest.
think every one of those mobile
Uh,
games has they are designed in a way
hmm.
that definitely appeals to a certain type of
Sure,
person.
sure, sure.
And generally speaking, I don't really care how people spend their money. Like if you okay, here's an example.
Mm,
In Lost Ark currently, there is this thing where people wear being a free to play person as like a badge of honor. Like
mm,
you're a pure untainted person if
mm.
you haven't spent any money, and if someone has spent money, they are the devil. They are this terrible person. They should be ashamed of themselves. And I sit here and I think to myself, this is awful. This is genuinely awful. These people that are literally attacking others for spending their own money, they are and they just tout being free to play all the time. they are the equivalent of like a stereotypical New Yorker who can only tell you every 5 minutes how they're from New York in every way
Mm,
that they can. It's crazy. There's nothing wrong with being free to play. There's nothing.
mm,
It is respectable. It's admirable. It's when they judge how other people derive enjoyment from a video game. That's why we're playing these games in the first place, is to have fun and like
sure.
get away from real life. They really go out of their way to like villainize them, and I think it's just the most obnoxious thing that I read every single time. They're
Mm,
obnoxious people. They are. Let people enjoy games in any consumable manner that they want. It's their money.
right. Right. Um, I'm with you there, Saint. And to kind of extend on that point, um, like like because like what I think a lot of the free to play players don't consider is the value of time, right? It's always just money that they look at, and you don't really hear them talk too much about time, right? So it's kind of like my perspective is like, let's say you're like a video editor, and you can go out and make a video for like, I don't know, let's say $100. I don't know, whatever, right? hundred
Hmm.
bucks and it'll take you like fucking 2 hours to make $100. It's like, okay, well, if you think about it from a time perspective, it's like, yeah, you could play Lost Ark and see how many mats or how much gold you'll generate in like that 2 hour time versus spending those 2 hours working, making money, and then spending that money in the game, and getting whatever return you get from that too, right? So it's like I don't know, like the whole concept of pay to win. I loved how you said earlier. It's the way you put it was really good. Was really accurate and hit home with me. It was the. It wasn't so much about like for me. And of course, it can be. It can be about just getting ahead of the next guy. But most of the people that pay to win are people that just don't have time to play the game, that want to get ahead or want to push the gear score. That like, hey, let's say they want to be like, let's say they want to experience Volton when it comes out or Argos when it comes out, but they just literally don't have the time to actually play the game. Then they're going to swipe, right? And if they aren't allowed to swipe, then they're always going to be like, if you have like 1 hour a day to play Lost Ark and that's it because you work for a living, then there's no way you'll ever be able to catch up to, let's say a free to play player that plays like 10 hours a day, right? But then if you can swipe because you work and you make money, it allows you to kind of catch up to them. And I'm not trying to like make swiping look, holy or anything like that, or justify it, rather. That's the word I'm looking for, in any way. But I think there's other dimensions to having pay to win mechanics in a game, that sometimes I feel like is pretty justified. I don't know. Like I feel like the whole, and I don't want to actually talk about the pay to win in Lost Ark with you because like that gets discussed constant, like all the time. Which, by the way, did you see that? Did anyone link you that video?
Hmm?
About this, it's like a Korean video. They had English subtitles. That the ATK and then that bald
Uh
guy. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Did you see that
yeah,
video?
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I saw it. I saw it. I saw it.
I thought that no, yeah, is it no dolly? How do you pronounce it? Is it no dolly? No dolly? Yeah, I thought that video was so well made, especially when he was talking about the pay to win mechanics. He's like, I think it's pay to lose, and here's why. And it was
The
so
whole
funny.
pay to lose
Yeah.
thing is like you see that term thrown around a lot in the Korean
Hmm.
community, especially. Kind of like, if you're spending money in Lost Ark, it's kind of like a losing thing because of the depreciative value over time, which is
Hmm.
true. But at the same time, it's like you don't need to sugarcoat it. It's pay to win. Lost Ark has pay to win in it.
Hmm.
You
Hmm.
can't. You don't need it. You don't need to not deny it. It's just like a case of what's a tolerable amount. Can you
Hmm.
tolerate a good game if it has pay to win in it?
Right.
If it's a bad game and it has pay to win, you'd probably just say no and you wouldn't play it, right? But if
Hmm.
it's a
Hmm.
good game, like legitimately a good game, and you could play it and enjoy every bit of it without spending, is it fine if it has pay to win in it? And I think everyone has to ask that question to themselves. Um, Yeah, and you could see in the Korean community, there's tons of people who don't whale. They
There's a
get to enjoy the
lot.
game.
Yeah, there's a
Yeah,
lot of people that don't whale. But I
yeah.
will say this though, to be fair, I feel like Lost Ark, just like you said, whether you're sugarcoating it or not, right? I feel like Lost Ark is a game that eventually gets everyone to pay money. Like maybe not
It
in the
finds a
way,
way. Yeah.
yeah, like maybe not in the way where like, oh, I'm gonna maybe get a 1490 weapon here. I'm swiping for gold, buying upgrade mats. You know, maybe not in that way, but at the very least, oh, this arc pass looks attractive, or
That's
oh,
literally just
you
what
know
just
what I mean?
happened.
Yeah,
I think I saw at least one person in chat who was like, "Oh yeah, I wasn't spending, but I saw the Arc Pass and it looked really good, so I bought the Arc Pass." And I was like,
yeah. See, that's what I'm saying.
yeah.
It like the Lost Ark. You know, like I look, I have. It's in my best interest to talk good about the game Lost Ark, but exactly like Saint said, at the end of the day, you know, like there are definitely pay to win mechanics. If obviously your definition of pay to win is to be able to buy power and gear up your character. And what I do know and what I have seen is that everyone eventually spends. Maybe not like thousands upon thousands of dollars, but everyone eventually. You know what made me think about this? I saw a video of my good friend Nico. You know, Nico Too Low, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And that guy is like free to play hero. You know, he'll buy a game and he just won't swipe. And then when I saw him look at the Arc Pass and he was like, all right, I think I'm gonna shout out a few bucks. That's what I was like. All right, this game will eventually fucking get everyone. And then even
Yeah, but
Asmongold, what didn't Asmongold even say? I'm gonna play this game free to play all the way through, and here he is now, fucking like plus 20 weapon, like swipe, like
I think it's a little bit different when you're a streamer though, because
true,
like
true.
as a streamer, spending money is like that is good content. People love watching that stuff. That is a big reason as to why I spend, by the way, because it's like people love watching that kind of thing.
Hmm. Yeah,
Oh, you want to see anyone do that? Yeah, I could quickly raise a character to 1445, and now people can see this class and how it works. People want to see me upgrade an
sure.
item to plus 25. I can do that, and people will just love watching it. They stay to watch the despair, or they're there for the highs where you one tap an item, and
Mm-hmm.
it's super fun to watch.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because they're not dumb enough to do that themselves.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I would agree with you there. I think as a content creator, I think you can make an argument saying that swiping is actually beneficial. It's actually good for your channel. I mean, look at Choice in BDO. I don't know how familiar you are with BDO, but Choice in BDO is literally like the fucking hard cap guy that has all that gear. Now, I am a little bit ignorant to his content, so you know, fair play to him if I'm actually, you know, a little bit if I'm being ignorant about this, but it's yeah, like he has a big following because he's that guy that has that gear. And I think he was oh my gosh, how could I forget his name? I literally did content with him. Our guy Jadao in Korea was like
Hmm.
that big whale, right? And you know, people, I'm sure people even in the Korean community followed him for that. What happened to Jadao, by the way? I haven't really talked to him. He used to
Oh,
have
he's
like
just
thousands
focused
of
on in real life. He's
okay.
still around.
Is he still
Um,
like, you know, cutting edge, big time whale guy or?
no.
Okay.
So I mean, you did an episode with him. He talked about how much he spent,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a crazy amount because you know he was gearing up like every class in the
Every class,
game
yeah.
at a whale main level, like what my sorceress is, but like over 20 times over. And
And faster too. Like I think
yeah,
yeah, he was trying to get it within a certain period too.
yeah, he's been really focused with real life,
Mm.
but he stops by for new updates. When there's a new update, he'll turn on a stream. He'll do it. He was trying Hell Cook Satan as well.
Mm-hmm.
But he's still around. Like if you message him, he's always around. But maybe he just doesn't turn his stream on as
Mm-hmm.
often.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Fair, fair. You know, one thing that is absolutely not pay to win is the PvP. Obviously, the rated PvP, in Lost Ark, because like you were mentioning how you think Lost Ark is very, viewer friendly, and
Mm,
I honestly think of I honestly agree with you, and I also think that it's very viewer friendly for PvP too. It's like one of those, like when I watch WoW Arena PvP, I have no idea what the fuck is happening. I just see
mm.
someone jumping with numbers flying around, and then eventually they'll get into an ice block, and then they'll get out of the ice block, and they're jumping around, same fucking shit. And then it's someone dies, right? HP bars go down. I'm like, I have no idea what happened. Lost Ark, even though like the regular player might not know or be able to appreciate certain plays like that have to do with like, CC, different types of CCs and all that stuff, it's pretty easy to follow. It's entertaining. I think a little bit of that has to do with the isometric view. Honestly, that's my personal opinion.
Yeah.
But it's pretty fun to watch. Like, what do you think about the whole PvP movement with Lost Ark? Because there's, the archives, they're trying to push for it, and the G4 just had a tournament. What do you think? Because in Korea, it's like, in Korea what it's like. So
Yeah, yeah, of course. Well, to speak to Lost Ark's viewability in PvP, think of a fighting game, right?
mm,
Super Smash Bros. Melee, Tekken, Street Fighter. Even if you don't play those games yourself, and like those games have an unbelievably high technical ceiling
mm,
for all the different things that you can do to master them. As a viewer, and you watch it, you don't see these things, but at the same time, you can still appreciate, how the games look
sure.
when you're watching them. It's
Mm,
fun to watch a fighting game, and I think Lost Ark, as far as PvP goes, it is far closer to a fighting game than it is your traditional MMORPG as
I
far as
agree.
PvP goes. And I think that is what helps it be a very viewable and fun thing. That's not to say it's nearly as technical as those fighting games, but I would say that there's a lot that goes into mastering PvP that might not be abundantly obvious to a newcomer who's watching a stream of it, for
Mm,
example. It is amazing to see all the grassroots movements, all those tournaments that are popping up. The G4 tournament was very fun, by the way, and I got to thank you
congratulations.
again. I got to thank you again because if it were not for you with the Connect, I would not have been on there in the first place. For people in Kanon's chat, Kanon's the one who reached out to me and asked me if I wanted to participate, and then he linked me up with G4, and then that's how I got involved with it. Um, so if there's any like if there's any proof of how easy it is to sit down and watch and enjoy Lost Ark PvP combat, it's Captain Flowers. I don't think he actually knows much about the game, does he?
Nope.
And yet
Yeah.
he knocked it out of the park
He fucking
with
killed it.
his commentating, and you did a fantastic job as well. Uh, I was very impressed by both of your commentating. I know a couple of people were like, "Oh, Kevin's going on a bit. He's talking too long. He's not letting Captain Flowers talk too much." But I was thinking to myself like, Captain Flowers doesn't know a lot about the game. He's just kind of running off of what he sees, right?
Right, right.
And so having Kanon there to like talk a little bit more like nuance and in depth is perfect to bounce off of that. And like Captain Flowers, he doesn't know the game, but he was able to commentate it basically perfect and keep people perfectly engaged
Yeah.
with it just by using what he saw. He didn't have to say anything technical at all, and he was able to. So it was incredible, really, to see it and hear it.
Yeah, he is unbelievable. I spent about an hour before the game or before we went live walking him through just a few of the basics. I had to even show the production crew like the POVs to kind of to show, because like I think when you watch PvP, it is important to sometimes zoom out and see that overview of the map, kind of like that bird's eye view, to kind of see where everyone's positioned relative to the map. And
Hmm.
he soaked up everything that I told him. Like, and I just told him the basic stuff, how CC works, the hard CCs, and then the map positioning, FOV stuff, and he got it so quick to the point where even when he was casting, he would talk a little bit about it. And I was like, man, this guy is just so fucking good. And like, here's the thing, like I told them, Saint, like, they're like, hey, we want you to cast, and I was like, I'm not a caster. I do not. I've held PvP events, but then I'll get casters. You know, like I'll get Laffy or Lin or one of these guys that can actually do it right, and get them to cast. And I might just chirp in every now and then. No pressure on me. Grenton, and they're like, no, we want you to cast. And with Captain Flowers, I was like, I cannot cast. Like the way my brain works, it's like when I'm like watching something, to be able to like track everything and then say it verbally, I can't do it. I stumble on my words and I'm just trying to like, there's so many different things that are happening. And I was like, I can't. They're like, no, Captain Flowers, we're going to make sure, he's taking lead. He's got you set up. No problem. Don't worry. It'll be walk in the park. It'll be so easy for you. And I was like, all right. Like it took some convincing. I was actually telling them, I was like, can I just play? You said it's in the West server, right? Like I ping 140. So I was like, I might be able to do 140. I was like, yeah. And shout outs to Saint, by the way, guys. He won the tournament with his 2 guys. And Saint also pings 140. I think it's we ping what, about 140, right? 150, 140 to Oregon, I think is what we ping.
It was worse than that. You know why? Those servers were not West servers.
No way. Seriously?
I think they were East.
Really?
Yeah.
You're pinging like 200, 220?
It was like 180, 190.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Where the fuck
and that
is
was with
that
a ping
server?
booster too.
Oh, really? Okay, gotcha. Yeah, Jesus. Yeah, oh my gosh. But yeah, I was like, can I play? I'm glad I didn't fucking play now then. It's so bad because I play Striker, man. But yeah, like that's what I told them. I was like, and they're like, no, it's okay. And I was like, all right, so I did it. Yeah.
You're commentating, like, if someone were to hear that, they wouldn't have, I don't think there was anything to lead them to think that was your first time commentating.
Really? I don't
know. Like as like a main commentator for like a big event like that. You did great. I thought it was.
Thank you.
And I think there was like one mistake that I had caught, and I was like, he made one mistake in like 4 hours of casting.
Yeah, it was like 6 hours. Yeah, it was a long time. Yeah.
It was phenomenal. You knocked it out of the park.
Well, I appreciate that, brother. That means a lot. I think I made a lot more than one, but yeah, I do appreciate it. So, Flowers definitely made it a lot easier for me, and I didn't actually know what to expect. I remember he was shoutcasting the first. I was like, all right, this will be easy. He's going right, and I'm sure you can tell, like, but they're cues, right? And then like he's going, and then he stops, like as if like he's done speaking, right? I was like, it's like, is it like, am I supposed to like fucking cast here now? What the fuck? I was like, what the? I was like, fuck, okay, and here we go.
Oh, okay. So you were worried about dead air. Is that what you were worried about?
I didn't know, because like again, I had no idea what to expect. They're like, oh, Captain's gonna carry it, or Flowers is gonna carry it. Don't worry. And so like I just figured like the things that I would say would be like him casting and maybe asking me a question, and then I answer. Like, what do you think about it? And then I'll answer, and then he'll go back to calling the live action. I didn't think that I would ever have to call the live action. But then when he stopped in that first segment, like in the first game, I was like, that's a cue for me to call the action now and take it from him. I was like, okay, I guess I'm casting. Here we go.
It was smooth, though. It was smooth. It was seamless. Like, if it was actually awkward, I think a lot of people would notice, like, kind of like a hiccup between like one interaction to the next. But it was smooth. So that was good, and I was overall really impressed by the setup and everything behind the scenes.
Oh man, so I want to actually put a YouTube video out. I recorded some of the background stuff, like when we were setting up with the production team. I think it would be pretty cool, kind of behind the scenes. Their production team and the setup to this, and that's what made me even a little bit more like when I talked to Flowers right before the broadcast. I wanted to really make sure that he knew that I was not a shoutcaster. This was my first time again. Of course, he was reassuring, but I want to do it again. And the reason why is because right before it, like I'm looking at like the call sheets, like it was a full fucking production. Like I've seen some like TV productions and stuff, like through like not gaming, but like outside, and like the organization it takes, like I'm talking like spreadsheets with like, this time it's going to go there, and then we're going to transition to this scene. It's going to show this scene, and then this is the cue for this, and I was like, holy shit. And like, they're like dry running shit. Like, this is what you're going to see. This is what you're going to hear. Like, we even like we would hear like there were some times where like I couldn't hear what the production people were saying because like Flowers would be shoutcasting, but like they had it so that they could talk to us individually without having anyone here. So like if they needed to tell me something, I would be the only one to hear like the director or whatever say Kanon or whatever, and or Flowers or casters were going to break in 5 or like whatever that may be. It was, dude, it was insane. Like their production level was on another level, and that's when I knew that event would be like really well done. I was like, this is gonna be good.
They made it really easy for us, so I really appreciate it. It was just seamless from beginning to end.
I knew your team was going to win, by the way.
Huh?
I knew your team was going to win, by the way.
Yeah. I mean, Virus and Starlast, they're unbelievably good players.
You played well too, man. You played very well.
I was very whelmed by my own performance.
Like I have even more respect for your performance now that I know that you're playing to an Eastern server on top of that. Like, that was...
Yeah, I think among the teams, I had the most advantageous team, to say the least. It wasn't a super competitive tournament, but there were some really good players in there. So they definitely gave me a run for my money, that's for sure.
It seemed like all the content creators just went out and got all the grandmasters that they got on their team.
Yeah, and there were more that wanted to play, like Shichisu and Katana Zera. They were looking to participate as well, so that's why I posted in the captain's chat. You saw,
yeah.
Those were the 2 grandmasters that I was trying to peddle to one of the captains.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. You guys did well. Again, congratulations. You are officially the one of 3 players that can call themselves official North American champions, by the way. It was an official tournament. So, but like while we're on the subject of PvP, I'm familiar, like I'm aware that you played another game that I actually played a little bit too, a game called Revelation Online. And I want to talk to you a little bit about Revelation, but before we do, like as far as I know, that was, they had PvE in that game, but PvP was a big part of that game. I'm assuming PvP is a big part of like your history with MMOs. You're obviously not super involved in the PvP side of things with Lost Ark. I mean, I know you play PvP. Right. You just won the tournament, and chat, Saint is a good player, regardless of how humble he is. He is a very good player, but you're not really big on it. You don't, I've seen you PvP occasionally on stream, but other than that, it's a PvE. You can even you yourself consider yourself to be a PvE guy. Why not PvP in this game with how balanced it is and with the ranking system and all that stuff?
Just time. There's so much PvE stuff to do that I don't even finish all the PvE stuff.
True.
Let alone find time to do PvP related things. I am a dormant member of the Rank 1 GVG guild in Kanon. Have been for 1.5 years. That's where I met my raid members as well. So I used to participate in GVG. I just started doing more stuff when it comes to the faction versus faction stuff. That's pretty fun. Ulevik, super fun. Don't know if you've gotten to try it yet. The 48v48.
Oh wait, the 48x48 is that the guild siege?
No. It's faction versus faction.
Oh, the Rowan content.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I've tried a little bit. It's pretty fun.
Yeah, it's hard to participate in though because it's not perfectly balanced. It's normalized, but gear still works in there. So someone who has stronger gear will definitely be able to kill you just from that. When it comes to like arena is fun. I do find myself that if I play like one game of PvP, it leads into another, and then another, and another, and then like 5 hours later, I'm like, shit, I haven't done any of my homework.
Yeah. And then you get nothing done with PvP. You just get courage tokens, I guess.
You get courage tokens, and courage tokens are great, but as far as like time to yield, it's pretty inefficient. It's pretty
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah.
But I still love PvPing, and that's why like if I do play a game, it leads into so many more games of
Yeah.
PvP.
Okay, so you
Super
have that
fun.
itch.
Yeah. But I haven't participated in like ranked since season 3 in Korea,
Oh, really?
which is over a year ago now.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And that was with Scouter. So you can even
Oh.
say that I was class carried. Yeah.
Oh, Scouter. Well, they've really butchered that class quite a bit. I mean, still good class, but yeah, they've gone through a lot of nerfs that class.
We say that, and then Scouter's performance in Royal Roaders was
Still, yeah,
insane.
still very good. I think,
Hey,
yeah, like I think just the way the class is designed, I don't think it could possibly
it can't be
be.
bad.
It can't.
Yeah.
Yeah, two ranged hard CCs, the fucking ranged shield peel,
It
and then
has
snipes.
everything that
It,
it
it really
needs, and then
does.
and then it's completely, and then and the moment it gets its identity, it forces the other team to
Yeah,
pressure it, or else they'll just get completely
yeah,
lambasted by its insane damage, and then while they're focusing on the scouter, that gives room for the others in the team. And then you have these comps that are like scouter plus like shadow hunter, and now you have two transformation classes that you have to worry about
yeah.
exert insane pressure while also being ridiculous at a mid, long, and close range.
Hmm.
And it's like the class can't be bad. No matter how many
Yeah.
times they nerf it, it'll still always be a pretty crazy class.
Yeah, yeah, just by design. I feel like it's strong in PvE too. What would you say as far as PvE goes? I mean, obviously two different builds, but as far as like the transformation build goes in PvE, would you say it's a less punishing or more punishing class?
It is the easiest class to play in Lost Ark in PvE. The
Mm.
transformation build. You just take your face, lay it on your keyboard, and just start rolling your face
I love you.
on your
I
keyboard.
love
And you'll
that.
do the optimal amount of damage that way. It's that good.
Oh my
And it's super
gosh.
safe. It's super cost efficient. You barely use potions because you're shielded all the time. It uses the least amount of damage gems.
Uh huh.
Everything about that class is super intuitive to play. That
Uh
being
huh.
said, I just started another scouter. Or I just started a scouter. It's
Hmm.
the non-transformation build. It's on the
Okay.
PTR. They're giving it some nice buffs. And
Okay.
it's fun. It's very squishy, doesn't transform, but the class is cool. It has the hallmarks of a newer class in Lost Ark.
Okay.
And Lost Ark does a great job of designing classes. You could say that the classes are in large the content because of the alt culture.
Sure.
People make so many of the classes and they go through the content, the same content, but through the lens of a different class. It makes it interesting and fun in its own unique way. And yet, many of the older classes, despite still being really cool, even by other games' standards, they do show some sign of age
Mm.
compared to some of the newer classes that are obviously designed with different intentions in mind in 2022. Like Sorceress is so wildly different than a class like Berserker or Deadeye,
Mm.
which clearly shows signs of age from like 2014.
Mm. Do you think that they're gonna make? Do you like? Because there was some talk about them literally completely revamping some classes by completely changing their identity. That's just what I've heard through the grapevine, like back in the day, right? Like, do you think we're gonna actually see some of those changes, like where,
Yeah, we
yeah?
will. It's not a matter of if rather than a matter of when, where
What
some
classes?
classes.
What class do you think? If you had to name a
Well,
few.
it's just classes that people would consider boring
Mm.
relative to something that's like newer, especially in its identity. The identity of a class is supposed to be the hallmark of what separates it from everything else.
Mm-hmm.
When you think of a sorceress, you think, oh, they have their ignition state, they can blink. It's super obvious. The scouter, their identity, they transform.
Mm-hmm.
And then you look at a class like Scrapper, and you're like, what is this class's identity? Oh, it's a resource bar. Nothing beyond
Mm.
that. It doesn't. it doesn't do a good job of giving the class like a
A
face.
special characteristic
Yeah.
that makes it stand out. What do you think of Scrapper? Or, what do you think about War Dancer Striker? General,
Yeah,
just
I mean
meter
it's
building,
very
spending.
similar.
Yeah.
It's a little boring, and you know their identity is just building up resource for their esoteric skills. So the entire notion of like re overhauling these classes is not, oh, this class is weak. This class needs to be stronger.
Hmm.
Rebalances, they happen like all the time.
Sure.
But the intent of this is, let's find these classes that might not have aged too well
Hmm.
8 years later, and kind of give them a touch up, modern touch up, maybe reinvent them a little bit, make them a little bit cooler, a bit more interesting to play.
Right.
And I think that's what their goal is with that, not necessarily rebalances, which I mean they just did one, which is currently in testing.
Yeah, I think I mean it's pretty exciting for me, to be perfectly honest, because you're talking about like it's almost like a brand new fucking class. Like if you think about like if they completely changed the identity of Scrapper so it's completely different, it would kind of feel like playing a brand new class depending on how severe the changes are, right? Like look what happened with Berserker. Like look like Berserker, Mayhem Berserker is such a unique, I feel like for me it's such a unique class
Yeah.
that is just really fun to play, and that came from a dead spec where like nobody used to play the old Mayhem spec, and now it's just like fucking like everyone's playing it.
Yeah.
Not only does everyone play it, like forget about just the performance and the numbers. I think just the mechanics of the class where you're always in your berserker stance, and you know you're just, you know, I think that's just super fun. So it kind of, for me, it puts things into perspective, thinking, well, you know, if they could do that for a dead spec, you know, Mayhem build for Zerker, I wonder what they could do for like, you know, other classes. I think it'd be really exciting to see.
I think Lost Ark shows a lot of like you could see the progress of the of Smilegate themselves,
Hmm.
of newer design stuff compared to older design stuff, newer
Sure.
bosses, newer maps, newer classes. It shows a lot of signs of, this is a company that got better at their job through the years.
Mm.
And so I very frequently use a term called design creep,
Mm.
where it's like, okay, well, the old stuff when Lost Ark was first unveiled, that was super cool. It was
Mm.
inventive. It was great. But this new stuff in 2022, it looks even better. It even makes, you know, the original stuff look a little bit dull in comparison. So, um, an opportunity to redo the visuals of classes and maybe even the gameplay flow of some of them seems like
Right.
a great opportunity. And gosh, if you want like a clear example of this, you need you don't need to look any further than looking at Striker
Mm.
compared to War Dancer. The visual and sound design of Striker is
Mm.
just completely on another level compared to War Dancers.
We're Giga Chads, man. We're Giga Chads. Only Giga
Yeah,
Chads play Striker.
yeah. You know, Striker didn't even get much of a buff in PTR. They were like, Strikers are already awesome.
Yeah,
They don't
they.
need it.
I mean, it was a nice quality of life change, but yeah, yeah, they pretty. I think if I remember, that was like the only thing that I read in the PTR. I just went straight to Striker. I think I read something about like, yeah, Striker's in a good spot. I was like, fuck.
Do you agree with that? Oh, I see. You wanted buffs.
I wanted I wanted something. Like, you know what it is? You know what it is? Striker could be strong, but I think it's like, I think anyone playing, like anyone being a main of a class, I think everyone looks towards things like this, like rebalancing or reworking or whatever it may be. I think everyone is hopeful that they'll see something in
Christmas
there.
present.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
a Christmas present.
Under the
And
tree.
yeah,
Yeah.
and you know what? Like this isn't PvP, so it's like, you know, I think the balance changes, you know, can be like, because like if I'm a striker main, like for example, if I'm a fucking paladin main, and we're talking about balance and PvP, it's like, bro, that shit's getting nerfed. Okay, nothing. You can't be hopeful for any, like if they're talking about reworking class or rebalancing classes, bro, it's going downhill. But like I feel like even for PvE, so I guess like a Mayhem Zerker in our version NA, it's like it's obvious that like that class isn't gonna get buffs. But like when we're talking about reworks and rebalance, you know, and strike, especially as a striker where like it's one of the more rarer classes played too, if I'm not mistaken.
That's right.
And I'm like, come on, bro, not many Chad Strikers out there. Give us something.
Yeah.
Give us something. I don't
Jedi's
know.
got nothing either, and they're literally the
Yeah.
least popular class
Yeah,
in
didn't they
Lost
even
Ark.
say their damage? Something about their damage was actually like good or too high or something like that. I don't.
Yeah, they said the damage was good, which is actually
Uh
believable if you
huh.
look at like the top performing Jedi's,
Sure.
but like having to work 3 times harder than someone to barely
Exactly.
do more damage than them is like a little questionable. But
Sure.
the top end classes did just get nerfed, and so by
Mm.
relativity, technically Jedi is in a
Sure.
better spot.
Which is
Uh,
boring. You know, those changes. Those are the changes that are like boring. So yeah, you're better because everyone else got nerfed. I mean, it's fine. It's like, I mean, sometimes that
it'll
is the way to do it. But yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
You shouldn't be happy because you didn't get a present and everyone else got coal in their socks. So
Yeah, exactly. What do you consider yourself a main of? Are you a Sork main?
I am a Sork main,
You're a
yeah.
Sork main. That is your class. So like if a patch note drops and you're by yourself and you're looking through the patch notes, you're likely to scroll to the Sork first.
Yeah, just to be curious of what they did, of course. And you know, my
Mm.
classic nurse, a lot of people have asked, are you gonna reroll off of it? And it's like, no.
You should probably play
Long
Striker.
I have a striker. Yeah, I have a striker, esoteric.
Hmm.
Very fun to play.
Dude, I
I
love
enjoy
that
it.
build. Yeah,
Yeah, Death Blow, very frustrating to play,
it really
especially in high end
is.
raid. But yeah, I mean, Striker's fun. Tons of people have asked if I'm planning on re-rolling or changing spec now that Igniter got nerfed. It's like, no.
Mm.
Changing specs and changing
Yeah.
classes especially is very hard to do in Lost
Mm.
Ark. Yeah.
I see my boy Xiaoping asking about sharpshooter mains. You know, um, just even if I'm just focusing on PvE because obviously my ping is way too fucking high to PvP. But I still love PvP, so I'm always following like the balance patch notes and stuff like that. Sharpshooter was one of the few classes, was actually the only class that got a direct PvP buff from, if I remember correctly, for reading the patch notes. I think, well, in the PTR, I think they were buffing like the meter generation by like 30% or something like that for PvP, or it might be even PvE as well. I'm not sure. Was it both PvE and PvP?
Sharpshooter, I don't remember what they did for PvP. They buffed the meter generation in PvE,
Mm,
but they also fixed a bug. Well, they call it a bug, but I think sharpshooters did not consider it a bug. They had a skill called Blade Storm, where
okay.
I think you've seen it. They
Yeah.
spin,
Yep. Yep.
and then in PvP you've seen it because they fucking jump at you, they start spinning, and then they
Yeah.
hit you with a charging shot. That spin gives them bird meter.
Mm-hmm.
Turns out that in PvE, it was very common that high level sharpshooters would use that skill on nothing. They would be away from the boss and they were like, oh, well, I got a moment. I can quickly do a quick blade storm and get some meter. They changed that in the PTR where then they labeled it a bug fix where now a sharpshooter has to actually hit something
I had no
with
idea that you could build
yeah.
meter with that without hitting something.
Yeah, so now they actually have to hit something in order to get that meter, and a lot of sharpshooters aren't not happy about that at all because that is a
Mm.
direct change to the way that you play a class,
Oh,
and that is
absolutely.
way worse. That is far worse than a change where that just lowers your numbers. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Jesus. Yeah, wow. Yeah, I had no idea that you even game meter like that. Yeah, fuck. Yeah, but yeah, PvP wise, I'd love to actually see how it works. Have you tested like how much faster? I think it was like 30% they said, right? That's passive meter generation, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Mm,
I don't play the class, so
mm,
it's
mm,
hard for
mm.
me to comment on
I
it.
I just thought it was interesting because like I talked to Typhoon a lot about PvP balance, and by the way, like when I was going through my latest class stuff with him, he told me that he was actually the one that Smilegate had um, teach the commentators at Royal Roaders like what classes counter what, and skills that do what, like literally he was
Mm.
the one, like his job, like it was his job to like teach the commentators about
That's
how,
badass.
yeah, it was like, I was like, oh shit, you're the guy. Cause I told him, I was like, hey man, I'm trying to put this guide together. Can you help me out with it? I'm trying to write down like the pros and cons and the counters to every class and stuff like that. He's like, oh yeah, I just did that for Royal Roaders, for the Royal Roaders. I was like, what the fuck? Really? Okay. And I remember talking to him about Sharpshooter, and he was like, I was like, bro, like, because like when I was talking about, when we were talking about like what classes Sharpshooter counters, he's like, I guess we could technically put Blade down. And like, we were just kind of memeing on Sharpshooter, and he was like, I was like, what do you think would be the best way to actually buff Sharpshooter? Like, because it's so fucking out of the meta right now. Like, what would you say would be the buff that they should make to the class that makes it, viable again? And he's like, buff the meter generation. He's like, making it so that they could build meter faster, have a higher uptime on the identity is if they do that, I think it'd be in a pretty good spot. And then fucking,
You know what it is? Sharpshooter is like, that's like a solo queue hero kind of class.
yeah, yeah,
You don't see it in competitive play at all, but like, God, I swear to God, there's so many sharpshooters in like the gold to low diamond range specifically. They're all over the place, and they fall into that category of just like classes that are really fucking annoying to play against.
yeah,
And they're right in there with like Arcana and
yeah,
like Reaper. Funny enough, Reaper also major solo queue hero class. A lot of them in the higher ranks in Korea lately, and much like Sharpshooter, no competitive play representation whatsoever.
yeah.
Solo queue hero classes.
Very true. Typhoon was gonna play. He was considering playing Reaper.
Yeah.
But he ended up just choosing Striker, War Dancer, Sork. But he was. I remember when they were prepping for it, he was considering. I think the classes that a lot of the other players were projected to play at the Royal Roaders is what ultimately got him to play Striker, War Dancer, and Sork. But yeah. Very true. Did you, by the way, have you played any other like PvP game? I say PvP, but like any other competitive game like League or Overwatch or any of those non-MMORPGs? Really?
Nope.
So
I
you're
made
just
it
an
to
MMO
level.
guy.
I made it to level 26 in League of Legends, and then I
Oh,
dropped it.
okay. Interesting. Okay,
Yep.
going back to that game I mentioned earlier, Revelation Online. How long did you play Revelation for?
I don't remember the exact time span, but I
Okay.
played it for a decent chunk of time.
I played
Yeah.
that game. I don't know if you know. What server were you on?
No Pine.
I was on Snowpine. Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah, I completely forgot. Yes, Snowpine. I was on Snowpine, and did you know I was actually a top 5 gear score rated, a top 5 rated occultist on Snowpine server, on our server.
In
Revelation.
in character power or
Yeah, character
in...
power. I don't, because you could see like the rankings, right, with like the eye level, the power.
there were
Yeah,
rankings for that.
yeah.
Did you go by the same name there?
I did. I think. I think I did. I'm pretty sure I did. That was after WildStar, right? It was after WildStar, right?
I mean, I didn't play WildStar.
Yeah, because I started using the name Kanon after WildStar. Yeah. It was definitely, yeah. I'm pretty sure it was.
Actually no, I think I do. I think I do remember you. But my time in Revelation Online was focused on... That game was such a stressful game because I was in the guild Frost, which was the dominant guild full of Chinese players at the time. Then there was this terrible drama that had happened because I had wronged one of the officers.
Juicy,
Yeah.
juicy. Let's hear this.
Yeah, I remember his name. His name was Oops.
Oops.
And
Oh yes. Oops.
that little shithead.
Wait, hold on. Did he play?
resetting?
He played
Huh?
Blade Master, right?
He
Or
was a blade master,
okay,
yeah.
okay, I am remembering it correctly.
His
Okay.
name was Oops because the guy was a
Hmm.
mistake. Anyways, they had reset the rankings on Mech Citadel, and I remember
Uh-huh.
we needed 20 people. And
Hmm.
Oops wanted to join us, and I was like, okay, yeah, sure, why not?
Okay.
The day came where they reset the rankings for it,
Okay.
and he was a no-show. He didn't show up at all. So I found a replacement. I didn't think
Okay.
anything of it.
Sure.
Fine. Great. Fantastic. We took the first clear. No problem. Easy.
Hmm.
Then they were planning on releasing another raid called Altar of Swords,
Okay.
and Oops wanted to join my group for it. And I was like, I don't know, Oops. I think it was kind of lame that you didn't no show for Mech Citadel. It was
Yeah.
kind of unreliable. And
Did he
he was
apologize at least?
he gave an apology.
He did. Okay.
Right. Not long afterwards, I was an officer in Frost for Territory Wars. It was me and Oops. We were both officers for Territory Wars for leading the
Okay.
forces. And I got approached by the officers above us, and they stripped me of my rank. And when I asked why, they were like, "Oh, we have evidence that you're planning on like leaving the guild and like using information against us." And I was like,
What the
can I
fuck?
see this evidence?
Yeah.
So they show me the evidence, and it's a really shitty photoshopped image. And I was like, where'd you get this from? And they're like, oh, Oops gave it to us. And I was like, oh, you little shit. He was a vindictive asshole who took it
Wow.
so personally that I wouldn't accept him into our raid party. So I took my friends
Wow.
that were in Frost. We split off. We made a guild called Lotus,
Okay.
small guild, and we spent the next 7 months bullying them out of the server to the point where they quit. They all left. We made it our mission to just completely rout them out of every single fortress, every single shit. What
Juicy.
was it called? Uh, what, what was that PvP area with the boss in the center?
The boss in the center.
Yeah,
You're not to talk about the area where people go and like farm shit and stuff, right? Like that's not the area, right?
it wasn't called Deathly Atoll, was it?
I think
No, I
that's
think it was. PA.
okay. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then there would be a boss that would spawn there nightly, and then they
Hmm.
would go and try and kill it, and then we
Yeah.
would spend like hours fighting them there. And it was just a very stressful time. The ironic thing is, the first of the people to quit the game from their guild was Oops himself. He just
Hmm.
dipped. And yeah, that was that. And then I had a guild on my hand that I had to lead, and that was fairly stressful as well. And that was the last time that I led a guild.
Right.
Uh, and after that, I was like, I don't want to ever do this again. It's just so stressful.
Hmm.
I was also a raid leader at the time, and we took the first clears for Altar of Swords, as well as Eternal Chasm when they came out.
Mm-hmm.
And that was, and the team that I had led at that point was like mostly close friends, but being a raid leader was also kind of a challenge for me. I was a bit younger and I
Mm-hmm.
was a bit more rash, and I was an emotional person. Over the years, I've become cynical and more devoid of emotion, and I was very toxic.
You're very
People make
toxic.
mistakes. Yeah, people make mistakes. I'd point them out and be like, "This is how you need to improve." Yada yada yada. I have a friend named Visu. He plays Lost Ark currently in a guild called Awake in the Eastern server, in the
Mm-hmm.
East server. Sorry,
Yep.
US East. He could attest on how much of a complete prick I was as a raid leader. And so I don't guild lead anymore. I barely raid lead anymore unless it's
Mm-hmm.
necessary. But I've calmed down a lot since then because I kind of realized, one, getting so worked up over a game is pretty messed up, and two, it's a lot of spent emotion over nothing that could ruin friendships. So, yeah.
Wow. That's a hell of a story.
Yeah. Revelation Online, stressful game.
Oh my gosh.
I didn't have a
Revelation.
job at that point, and that game was insanely pay to win.
Oh my god, it was so pay to win. It was
Yeah,
ridiculous.
the way that I got as far as I did was people wailed for me
How did
for
you get
me to
how'd you do that? You weren't even were you streaming?
no, I
Okay.
wasn't streaming. I was going to go to the other server, not Snowpine, but Darkfall,
Okay.
and someone really wanted me to play with them, and they were like, "Hey, I've got this friend in my group. He will literally wail for you if you play on our server instead."
On Darkfall.
On
On Snowpine.
Snowpine, yeah.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, yeah. And so I couldn't afford to whale, so I just relied on like, hey, you know, help a brother out.
Help a brother out. I got you. I'll be the Giga Chad raid leader. Just fucking swipe for me. Let's go. What
Yeah.
class did you play, by the way?
Sword mage.
Sword mage. Okay. So you're a mage guy.
I am, yeah.
You're a
I
mage
do like
guy.
melee as well, but I'm a big fan of spellcasters. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I feel like once a spellcaster, always a spellcaster. And same goes with like warriors. I mean, like look at Asmongold. He's gonna play warrior in every game ever to be released.
Yeah. The melees are fun as well. And like
Hmm.
I always played DPS roles, but like when I was playing Final Fantasy, I played warrior. There's tank role. Tanking, surprisingly, a
Yeah.
lot more fun than I thought it would be.
Hmm.
I actually enjoyed that a lot.
You
So,
played some Final Fantasy, did you?
hmm
Okay. How much of that did you play?
I played through the Stormblood expansion.
Okay. Okay.
Originally, I was kind of interested in the game, so I started off as a samurai, and then I realized
Hmm.
if you play as a samurai, you will never get a party
As a DPS.
as a DPS.
Yes.
Switched
Hmm.
to a tank, never had to worry about parties or a queue ever again.
Hmm.
Yep, that was great.
Hmm.
But I stopped playing it because I didn't have a consistent group of people to play with
Sure.
at the time.
That's so big in
And
MMOs, by the way. So
yeah,
big.
but I was really interested in the Savage content, but it was very frustrating to queue into a party
Hmm.
and
Hold on. Sorry, Saint. I apologize for interrupting you again. Is there another desync? Did it get desync, guys? The audio?
audio desync. Test.
How is the audio, guys? No desync, so we're good.
Okay.
So we're good. Okay, okay, cool. Jesus, that like I have a phobia for it because it just randomly happens. I apologize. You're speaking. Sorry.
Yeah, so I was playing Final Fantasy, and at the
Mm.
time I was playing on the Chaos Data Center, which is EU, and it was tough. You join a party, it
You
wasn't
played
guaranteed that
EU.
everyone. Yes, I was playing on EU at the time because I had some friends there
Okay.
that wanted me to play, and I was like, okay, I'll play with them.
Where were you at the
And
time? In NA or Korea? In NA, obviously, probably, right?
yes,
Okay.
yes,
Okay.
and yeah, I just found it to be a very frustrating experience to go into a party, do two polls, wipe, and then someone wants to leave, and now you're stuck in the party finder for like an hour looking for someone again.
Hmm.
EU data center especially was rough with this because not everyone spoke English or like fluent English. There would sometimes be like language barriers as
Mm-hmm.
well. I thought that the pugging experience in Final Fantasy was pretty miserable, to be honest.
Hmm.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things I hated about Final Fantasy was the whole concept of fucking losing half of your skills by doing lower level raids. Like
Yeah,
as
the
you're,
level syncing stuff. Yeah.
yeah, I'm just like this feels because like I feel like I feel like low level combat in Final Fantasy is one of the worst combats in the game. Cause like you have that GCD and you don't have anything that like reduces GCD and you have like fucking 3 skills that you're rotating on a very long GCD, right? And then as you get more and more skills, then it becomes, way more enjoyable. But like early level when you're only rotating like 2, 3, 4 skills, and that's all you do on a long GCD, and having to
Yep.
go back to that, like with these balance trades, I can't remember exactly. I think it was like you kind of had to or something as a daily. I can't remember how it worked, but
Yeah,
I hated
the
that.
daily roulette.
Yeah.
And God forbid you end up in the 14 dungeon. It was like Terra something something.
Mm-hmm.
You just have like no skills, and you just
Yeah.
feel
It's
like a loser.
yeah, dude, it's so bad, man. Oh my gosh. Um, yeah. Wow, I did. So you've pretty much played them all, man. You have. You've played them
To
all.
some degree or another, yeah.
Would you ever play
But my
co-op games, by the way?
hmm?
Would you ever play like co-op games like on the side with like another streamer? Like whatever.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, it depends on the game.
Mm-hmm.
If it's something fun, like uh, there was this one game that I was playing with some friends called For the King, and
For the kid. Okay.
yeah, it's like a D&D kind of style sort of game.
D&D
Uh,
style. Do you play D&D by the way? Like do you
I wish,
you
I
wish?
wish so badly that I could just find a group of people and just sit down and just like do a D&D session.
Uh-huh.
Because frankly speaking, it just sounds like a whole lot of fun.
You've never done it ever though.
Nope, never had a group of people that would be down
Huh.
for like
I,
a D&D session.
Chad, I think this is like a great example of two different people in the same situation. You have Saint over here. He's like he's never played D&D, but he's like, I'd love to try it. And me, where I'm like, I've never played D&D, but I'm like, yo, I don't know if I can try that shit, man. I don't know. Like everyone loves it on Twitch, but like I just feel like I'm playing RPG House, like
Yeah, I
from
mean
what
that's
I've
basically
seen.
what it is. It's just you you make of it what you can.
Hmm.
Uh but I think I guess it's the game without the graphics,
How come
you
there's
know?
no, if this is so popular, how come there's no Dungeons and Dragons video game?
There
Is there,
is
is there?
not, but there are games that are very, very, very inspired by it that
Okay.
try to emulate the D&D experience.
Okay. There is this trash. Okay. Uh,
Yeah, there's games like Solasta, which like
okay.
they're meant to kind of video gameify
Mm-hmm.
the D&D experience. I think some of the official D&D games are pretty
Uh-huh.
garbage, but yeah, like a game like Divinity, Original Sin, or Baldur's Gate,
Uh-huh.
super popular games that are basically inspired off of Dungeons and
Oh, like
Dragon. And
hold on. So you'll have to forgive me for those of you who are in chat and saying I am kind of ignorant into this space, but what I mean is like a game that is literally like you do what you do in Dungeons and Dragons. Not like play a video game in the Dungeons and Dragons world, but like you literally do the same thing. Like maybe there's like a lobby and then there's someone that, you queue up as a dungeon master or the narrator or whatever you guys call it, and then like, you literally do what you do in person, but like you do it in an online
mm,
setting. Right? Like is that a thing? Is that do they it is a thing. That's just D&D online. Okay, so they do have that online then. I guess.
they do have it online, yeah.
Okay, okay. Is that really popular?
I think so. I mean, I
Okay.
told you I've never actually played D&D
Oh,
before,
true,
so
true,
I don't actually know how
true.
popular like the online version of it is.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a very curated experience.
Hmm.
It relies on having like a good DM who can like run
Sure.
the whole gig and make things fair and fun for everyone. And in that sense, it's so much more freeform than what like the video game medium can offer, where everything is scripted. Like if you do X,
Hmm.
then Y happens. Whereas in D&D, it's infinite possibilities
Hmm.
based on how the DM runs it.
Hmm.
Oh, it sounds fun. Honestly, I think it would be pretty interesting. But it's hard to find people for that kind of thing. And even worse, it's hard to find time, which is something that I don't have enough of nowadays.
Very true. Time is something that is just, oh my gosh, I'm feeling it too. Um, Saint, so I wanted to actually ask you this. I forgot to ask you while we were on the subject at the beginning of this podcast when you were talking about working for Nexon. What was that experience like?
The games are shit, but working there surprisingly nice. I would say that video game companies in general are kind of a weird industry.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because first of all, if you work in the video game industry, if you take your skills to an equivalent job in literally any other sector, you would just make more money.
Really?
Video game industry pays quite poorly. It's been
Oh.
improving though. In Korea, many of my colleagues were poached. They were bought out by other companies and offered a better
Oh.
salary, and this was a really big issue in Korea last year.
Huh.
A lot of video game companies were looking to hire, especially with the onset of COVID, and so any opportunity that they got to steal employees from other companies, they took that opportunity, and so that kind of led to more competitive wages.
Huh.
Um, Secondly, a lot of video game companies are many of them are kind of stuck in like the 2000 early 2010s, maybe late 2000s, and a lot of the ways that they handle protocol and whatnot, very archaic, um, not very modern. It's kind of questionable, honestly. And so Nexon, I was very pleasantly surprised to see that they were much more uh, progressive with the way
Mm.
they were handling things by the time I started working for them. But when I had spoken to many of the other employees there, they kind of made it very evident to me that it was not always like that. And just a few years back, working at the company might not have been so great. So I had joined on at a pretty good time. I enjoyed relatively good benefits, and I only had good experiences and really good coworkers and colleagues. So maybe I lucked out personally, but yeah, I thought working there was it was a good experience, and for me, it was a foot in the door in the industry since uh, kind of finding your way to working in the video industry, it's pretty tough. But once you get one job, it leads to another job.
Mm.
Once you get a little bit of experience on your resume, it becomes infinitely easier to find future opportunities. I think a lot of people who like come out of college, they run into that situation where they need to get a job, but in order to get a job, they need work experience. But in order to get work experience, they need a job, and it's like it's tough
Right.
to get that first bit.
Right. I understand. Well, thanks for sharing that with us, Saint. That's pretty
Hmm.
cool insight because like a lot of us in chat, right, or watching on YouTube, it's like a lot of us are very well versed with MMOs from the perspective of a video game from the perspective of the consumer, right? Because like we are the consumers, but I think very few of us have that perspective from the other side. And I know for a fact with age that perspective is vastly different from the perspective of the consumer. So I was just
Oh
wondering
yeah.
what that was like.
I think
Yeah.
especially in the video game industry, it's very closed doors to the consumer on who does what inside
Mm-hmm.
a company. And that's why I spoke to like a lot of the pressure that our current community is exerting onto Amazon of like, Amazon, why don't you do this, this, and this, and this, and for Lost Ark? And I'm kind of sitting there, I'm like, I kind of have a good idea of what's going on. And
Sure.
it's like, um, a lot of this falls on Smilegate,
Mm.
especially because Smilegate is a Korean company,
Mm.
and that's not me casting shade on Korean developers. I've worked with so many of them, great people, but the reality is, work culture in a Korean video game company is vastly different than
Oh
that of a
man.
Western company,
Absolutely.
and when it comes to a joint operation, in order to make sure that a project like Lost Ark can succeed, sometimes those differences in work culture can cause a lot of hiccups in the
Mm.
pipeline in order to make things work. And it's just abundantly obvious by seeing how their planning has been going. Um, Despite Amazon having an infinite pool of resources, and despite Smilegate being as probably one of the largest companies in Korea, they don't seem to have every problem hashed out.
Mm.
And even during the before the launch of the game, the Crown Channel, we even saw some evidence of this when uh, Gold River expressed his dissatisfaction with the localization of the game, like
Hmm.
certain renaming of characters and whatnot. And it's like you're not totally on the same page
I didn't actually
there.
catch that. Did he say that? He said that he wasn't happy with them renaming fucking Lance Master to Glavier as an
Oh,
example.
there wasn't any explicit
Yeah, yeah,
examples,
yeah,
but I would imagine that like maybe like Scrapper might not have been so cool to them, but
yeah.
he did mention that explicitly,
Hmm.
and it is not easy
Right.
for a Western publisher to work with a
Absolutely.
Eastern developer. It's very, very tough. There's communication issues, there's
Hmm.
time zone overlap problems. And I've seen people like, oh, Amazon should just hire people to work night shifts. And it's like, no, that's not how that works at
Hmm.
all. First of all, they would have to hire an entire additional producer. And second, if that producer is working night shifts, then they can't work in live real time with their coworkers. They'd be what, sitting in an office by themselves at night or something like that. It's like, oh, hire an entire team to work at night shifts. It's like, no, that's not how companies work.
Mm, mm, mm.
That's not how headcount works. That's not how
Yeah,
any of that works
exactly.
whatsoever. And it's just like this kind of meandering process. And worst of all is the people who work at a publishing company, uh, they're not experts of the game that they work on,
Hmm.
typically speaking. I can guarantee you that um, nobody who works at Amazon is an expert in Lost Ark.
Hmm.
And that's just something that people have to kind of eat and accept is that
Sure.
people who work at a video game company, oftentimes than not, they're not working there because they want they like the game. They're
Yeah.
working there because it's a job that puts food on the
Make
table.
money. Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
It's not their job to be an expert at the game. It's a perk if they are, but it's not their job to.
Hmm.
Just like QA, right? In many, many games, people get QA gets shit on. Single problem happens. Oh, it's QA's fault. They let it through.
Hmm.
QA, they get a checklist. They're like, okay, make sure that this, and this is working correctly. When they get the build,
Hmm.
they do that checklist. They check this thing, they check this thing. Oh, but this thing broke from a previous build. Oh, but that's not on the checklist because why would it break? You know, QA is working on like 1 month sprints in video game companies, oftentimes than not. The moment they're done with their checklist and they're done with the build, another build is in. Can they afford to find the time to go retroactively check things in the offset chance that they're broken or not? It's like, no, they can't. That's just not how it works. And yet they're working long hours and often working overtime and working like late night shifts for crunch. Crunch still happens nowadays, even though crunch is evidence of like poor planning.
Hmm.
Yeah. So that was a really long rant about like the
No,
video game
I,
industry and like
that
the stuff that
was
happens
that was
behind
very
closed
insightful.
doors.
That was very
Uh,
insightful. Yeah.
I just feel bad because yes, Amazon is definitely at fault for a lot of things, but I don't like people getting thrown shade and blame for things that they aren't responsible for.
Yeah.
It's just unfair. And
In
they can't defend themselves.
That's what I was just about to say. It's like,
Yeah.
what the fuck do you expect Amazon to do? Be like, Smilegate's actually dropping the ball on this. Guys, we're
You
trying to
can't
get.
do that.
You can't do
As a
it.
publisher,
You
you
can't do it.
actually cannot do that because it
Mm.
harms the publisher developer relationship
Hmm.
and you could lose your job over that
Yeah.
if you try and shift blame to the developer. Part of the
Hmm.
publisher's job is to be a scapegoat for the developer.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think about that every time a news announcement post goes up and people are like, fucking Amazon. I'm just thinking, like, I was just thinking, like, if you, and again, I'm ignorant to the space. So I'm just thinking, like, have you ever thought that maybe, just maybe, Amazon is trying to get that information and they're just not being given that information from Smilegate or whatever that may be, right? Um, yeah, I think that's really cool to hear though. Like I love hearing kind of like that different perspective from someone that's been in the industry and can kind of understand it. Because like I myself, I have my own small business here in Korea. That's why I live here, and you know we have clients, you know, and all that stuff, and it's the perspective is definitely different. Like, you have to understand, at the end of the day, video games and the people that are running video games, it's like exactly what you said. They're employees. Like, they're people that are working for money, and some people might hate the fucking game. Like, they might not
Yeah.
give two shits about it, you know? It's like, yeah. But, you know, like, it's interesting you're talking about, like, I actually didn't see the Crown the Crown episode where Gold River talked about, you know, disliking some of the localization. Have you had any backdoor talks with anyone from Amazon in regards to some of these changing of names? Like, do you have anything that you'd be able to share with us? Like, I would
The
love to
only
just
thing,
ask
yeah,
them.
only
Yeah.
one.
Okay.
All I know is that Holy Knight was changed to Paladin because of religious reasons. Oh no, there's actually two things that I know
Oh,
that got
wow.
renamed. So Holy Knight got renamed to Paladin because of religious connotations. Same reason why it got renamed to Paladin in Russia. And
Huh.
obviously, Western players don't actually care about that rename because
Yeah,
they're
that
more
was a pretty good.
familiar with
Yeah,
Paladin.
that one's
Yeah, they
not
like
bad.
that name change. The other one that got changed is that there are NPCs that are in Arthurtine that Spellgate actually named after real Nazi scientists, historical Nazi scientists. And obviously, having
Oh,
an NPC named after a Nazi scientist in a region in the game that is experimenting on humans would not fly very well in the West.
absolutely.
So those were renamed as well. Yeah.
See, I love hearing these, like, cause like we only get one side of it, right? We don't hear these explanations, and then hearing that perspective, it changes our perspective. I still don't know what the fuck they were thinking with Papunica and Punica, but it sounds like they had a decent reason. Did you
Well,
know Papunica
dude,
actually means
the
giant
song.
cock in the Southeast Asia?
Oh, you know, did you actually play through Punica in English by any chance?
It did I play through like the
English
storyline?
voice acting.
I skipped everything. Yeah,
Great.
didn't.
Well,
Yeah.
the song at the end of it,
Uh huh.
they had they had completely localized it into English
Okay.
with English lyrics that were, but in the Korean version of the game, they sing in a language that is not Korean,
Okay.
and it is not any language actually. It's supposed to be Punican. It's a made up language that's supposed
O-
to just
Okay.
sound Hawaiian. It was only supposed to sound Hawaiian. And I'm guessing this is not confirmed or anything. I'm
Okay.
guessing that they replaced this with actual English in the West because Hawaiian people tend to be very protective of their culture
Uh
and their
huh.
heritage, and so it
Sure.
could come across as potentially
Offensive.
offensive
Okay. Okay. I see that.
by using something. Yeah, that's an example of like a localization change that had that into
Hmm.
consideration. Nowadays, games are a lot more PC conscious, and so you know they make these changes to avoid any potential fallout.
Wow. That's really interesting. Like, that's really interesting. That's awesome to hear. Seriously. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Hmm.
Thank you for sharing that with us. Um, there was so I do have I do have one last question. And I'm gonna let you go because I know you're fucking tired, man. I appreciate you for sticking with me this long. I really do appreciate it. Um, Last question here. So apparently there's I'm hearing that there's a another event with Mom's Touch here in
Hmm.
Korea with
Yes.
Lost Ark. Mom's Touch is just like a fast food chain in Korea, guys. FYI, in Korea, and right now I guess they're doing a promotional event with
Yep.
Lost Ark.
Little
What?
figurine.
Yeah, is it a figurine? Is that what it is?
It's like a little miniature of a Makoko.
Okay. If you order
Yeah.
like a meal or something.
Yes, 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 yes.
Oh, have you gotten one, Saint?
I have not, but I'm thinking about getting one because they are not sold out currently.
Okay, so can I ask you this? May I join you to to your journey to a local
I wouldn't
mom
go
stuff
out.
shop. You wouldn't go. You wouldn't go out. Don't you have to
No,
go? Oh, you order
no,
it.
no, you could literally order it and they will give
They'll
it the
still give you the
figurine to
the
you. Yeah,
figurine.
yeah, yeah.
Really? I didn't see because I when I heard about it, I checked Mom's Touch on my delivery app, and I didn't see any additional thing.
You could probably put it in the special instructions, but I
Really?
know some of my guildmates who ordered it and they got the figurine
Really?
delivered to
What
them.
app? What app did they use? Can you let me know?
I mean, I'll ask them.
Yeah, if you don't mind. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll try and hang out with Saint again next time. That was my try of 2022. I tried to hang out with him 2021. Didn't go very
Yeah.
well, but
You're not
persistence is
getting
key.
my organs.
Saintone, listen, Saint, thank you so much for joining me here today. It has been an
Hmm.
absolute pleasure. I feel so bad because I know you're tired. You've been streaming 87 hours, and we're going on, a couple hours here with the podcast. Thank you so much, man. I really appreciate your time.
It was fun, dude, to actually get to sit down and talk to you. Easy to talk to. Very
Thank
easy to
you,
talk
thank
to.
you. You are too. Some of the stuff that you're saying, I know you're apologizing a few times for ranting, and you don't have to, because everything that you said was fascinating, very insightful and fascinating. And man, I could, especially now. I will say this, and then we'll call it. But I will say this: after having a conversation with you for a couple hours and getting to know you a little bit better, I definitely see why you have grown so much as a content creator. Absolutely. I
Oh
wish nothing
God,
but
dude,
nothing
I
but the
think
best
I
for
was a
you.
lot tamer even just a few months ago. Nowadays, I'm just a complete douchebag in my stream. If someone just so I'll just like go on a tear on someone, and then someone will be like, "Wow, you're a real dick, aren't you?" And then I'll just be like, "Yeah, so what? What are you gonna do about it? Gonna
Oh
cry?"
shit! Are you
I,
gonna
I, I'm
cry?
just
Are you said that? You said, "Are you gonna
I
cry?"
yeah, dude. I've just stopped caring altogether. If I get a few people who hate me at this point, I just
It
can't
comes
be
with the
ours.
territory. Haters are
I think it
everywhere.
comes with the territory. Yeah,
Yeah, haters are everywhere. Oh
yeah.
my gosh. Listen, Saint, again, one more time. I appreciate you guys. If you guys are watching this on the YouTube channel, let me know in the comment section below. What you thought of the podcast, really, at the end of the day, and who you'd like to see next. Please check out this man, Saint. All of his socials will be linked in the description below. Check him out on Twitch. The guy is a full-time Giga Chad on Twitch. One of the premier Lost Ark streamers. Definitely check him out. Saint, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me, man. And I'll catch you around.
Sounds good. Peace.